Inside the Birds is back. Welcome, everyone, to the Inside the Birds live pregame show here at Rivers Casino and Sportsbook on Delaware Ave in Philly. It's where Philly loves a winner. I'm Jeff Bosher from Inside the Birds alongside my Inside the Birds co-host, Adam Kaplan. Now, Greg Cosell could not be with us tonight. He's putting together the NFL matchup show for ESPN as we speak. But we do and we will have former Eagles wide receiver Jason Avant with us. He will be joining us momentarily to at least give you a great three-man show. We are back, of course, here at Jack's Bar and Grill at Rivers Casino as the 6-7 Eagles get ready for the first of 4 consecutive NFC East games to close out their season and make a playoff push. And it starts tonight against the 6-7 Washington football team. It is not Sunday, Adam Kaplan. In case anybody hasn't noticed, it is Tuesday night. And for a lot of fans, that does not elicit the greatest of memories or feelings. And we're going to take a stroll because the last time the Eagles played on a Tuesday night, I was in the house at the Link. Adam was in the house at the Link. Jason Avant was more than in the house. He was on the field at the Link when it happened. And why don't we take a quick, very quick stroll down memory lane, shall we?
Second down and goal. Webb, Chase, still alive, and Webb will thread his way into the end zone. Touchdown, Minnesota. And Webb showing a lot of what he did in college, rolling out, buying time, improvising. Pull off the clock. There's Vic with Peterson. Mr. Joe Webb. Boy, that's going to be an interesting next couple of weeks in Minnesota with Webb and his future. And what about Leslie Frazier? Does he get the full-time job? What about the stadium? Favre, 99%.
All right, I apologize for that. Adam made me do it. I didn't want to do it, but we had a flashback to Joe Webb and the infamous Joe Webb game. It will not be Joe Webb on the field tonight against the Eagles. It will, however, be Garrett Gilbert, who might as well be Joe Webb, a little bit more accomplished than Joe was at the time. But Adam, that game, I've heard that game referenced more in the last 48 hours than that game was even referenced about 48 hours after it was over in 2010. I mean, it's amazing the symmetry and the people who are worried about this being Joe Webb Part 2.
Well, in that game, if I remember correctly, in 2010, I thought the Eagles were not as aggressive as they should have been against Joe Webb. I thought that was part of it, and we've seen this year with, now of course he's a different type of quarterback and he's a first-round pick, but when the Jets played the Eagles, I thought they could have been more aggressive against the Jets rookie quarterback. I thought they sat back a little bit, and this is what happens sometimes. You think you can just play coverage, and you'll finally make the guy make a mistake.
Right.
That's what happened in the second half against the Jets quarterback in that game that the Eagles were able to pull out and win. So you see Garrett Gilbert. This is the crazy thing. Like we all forget, he's been in the league 10 years.
Right.
Like I mean 8 years. Excuse me. He's 30 years old. He turned 30 in July. I mean he was drafted. Do you know who he was drafted by? I didn't even know he was drafted. I had to look it up.
I want to say the St. Louis Rams?
Yes.
There you
Good
go.
call.
All right, there we go.
In 2014.
Uh-huh.
And look, he's been with, I think, 7 teams. But the key here is he was with Scott Turner, the offensive coordinator for Washington, had him in 2018. He remembers him.
Right.
And we've seen him play. He started last year, I believe, right?
He started the game for the Cowboys, and they lost to the Steelers. We'll get into that a little bit more, but he actually acquitted himself fairly well. I also think the big thing to add to that, to your point, Adam, is they didn't sign him off the street. He was with the New England Patriots on their practice squad for most of the year, I believe. So it's not like he's been sitting at home on his couch not getting a workout. But he will start tonight for the Washington football team. Garrett Gilbert is the man. And, yes, he did start for Dallas last year after the Ben DiNucci game. So it all ties in.
Oh, in that wind. I mean, as we were saying on our show that dropped yesterday.
Right.
When you look at that game last year, if Garrett Gilbert started, they probably would have won. Ben DiNucci clearly was not ready to play in that win game on a Sunday night where nothing went right for the Eagles until Ben DiNucci kept turning the ball over and he was just helpless. But
right.
Garrett Gilbert, son of Gail Gilbert, former journeyman quarterback for Seattle and Buffalo, He's got decent arm strength. He's a right-handed thrower. He's been in the league a long time, mostly on practice squads or on the street, as you've been talking about. But I just worry about what the Jets were able to do with Zach Wilson in the first half when I know it started off because they got great field position, but I just thought Jonathan Gannon was too passive until they really did a lot of disguise. He held onto the ball. He wasn't sure what he was doing. I know Garrett Gilbert hasn't played a lot, but he's 30 years old.
30 years old.
Bring it. You got to come after this guy.
Should be very interesting. Jason Avant, we welcome him into the show, former Eagles wide receiver. Jay, you played in that infamous 24-14 loss in 2010 on December 28th against the Minnesota Vikings, a game known for a lot of things, but specifically the Joe Webb game. And when you think back on that game, what comes to your mind? What do you remember about it?
It was the game after the Miracle in Meadowlands.
That's big.
So that's the backdrop to that game, and I thought that we were on way too much of a high, celebrating a victory of that magnitude, and it's very, very hard to get yourself up for the next game. Then it was postponed to Tuesday, so it was a very, very hard game to get up for. And then we knew we had Joe Webb coming in, so that was like added fuel or less fuel.
Sure.
So it was a really tough game to get up for. So I don't think that's the case now, coming off of a bye week and realizing what's at stake, the final 4 games. So I think that the Eagles don't have that to worry about. They don't have a big victory, to have in their back window.
No, but they do have 16 games off in between, which we'll talk about a little bit about the impact. 16 days off, in between the last time the Eagles took the field and now. So we'll talk about that as the show goes on.
One follow-up, Jason. What did you guys do, if you could recall, once the game was rescheduled for these 2 extra days? What did you guys do? Walkthroughs? Like, what did you?
There was walkthroughs, and there was also a bunch of extra film study. And I think that's like analysis paralysis. Once you've come throughout the week and you realize that your game plan is going to be postponed, coaches start adding things to it, right? And so when you give a coach more time, they mess up everything by overthinking it. Hey, I don't know about this in cover 4. They begin to overanalyze it and mess up the game. So I'm not saying that was the reason at all.
But it could happen, though, right?
But it can very well happen.
Now we all know.
Because they're babysitting.
Right.
Let's
What
think about what's going on between now, from Sunday to now, or Saturday from now. They've been trying their best to keep guys out of trouble, keep guys from getting, COVID, those types of things. That's what they're doing. They're trying to mitigate all those things.
Now, we all know, going back to the Joe Webb game, that should have been called the Antoine Winfield Sr. game, correct? I mean, 2 sacks, a 45-yard touchdown from his own recovered forced fumble, 9 tackles. He was in Mike Vick's face all game long. Leslie Frazier, you may remember, Eagles assistant, but he had taken over for Brad Childress as the head coach in that game. What happened there? Why was Antoine Winfield not picked up? I feel like there was something that went on, but I'll let you kind of go.
That was just something that we had problems a bunch. Mike, in particular, you had to blitz him with a faster player.
Yeah. No Jamal Jackson in that game.
No Jamal Jackson.
Right?
No Jamal Jackson. That was I believe the first year of Mudd. Second year
I think
of
he
Mudd.
was hurt that year. Mike McGlynn had started.
No, not Mike McGlynn. Howard Mudd.
Right. Oh, that was the first
Howard.
year.
I think that was the first Howard Mudd year, and that was a transition from Jamal Jackson to Jason Kelce.
Right.
Correct?
Right.
And was it Kelce?
He was drafted the next year.
He was drafted 11.
This is 2010.
All I know is Mike McGlynn started center in that game.
Yeah, Mike McGlynn started. Yeah. So when you have those things, Mike wasn't able to call out the mic at that point in time. So so he got some overall pressures.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. Obviously, as you mentioned, with the extra time, I did hear Ron Rivera say it gave him a little bit of time to prepare for both Jalen Hurts and Gardner Minshew. So that is an interesting element to the game. But what a time that was. I mean, and you're right. And I find this dynamic in sports to be pretty consistent at almost every level. When you have such an emotional win as you guys had over the Giants the week before, Deshaun Jackson, miracle at the Meadowlands, down 38-10, you come back. That game could have been played on Sunday, Jay, and I almost feel like maybe the same result would have happened just because of the emotional letdown that you often see the next week following a win like that.
It usually happens. It happened to the Saints, the Vikings and Saints, the year that, right before the NFC Championship.
Right. Right. Well, this is definitely a new situation for the Eagles. As I mentioned, it's been exactly 16 days since they last took the field. Even longer, of course, for Jalen Hurts. The last time they were on the field, it was Gardner Minshew leading the way to a 33-18 win over the New York Jets. A lot has happened since. We've got plenty to discuss today. Come on down to Rivers Casino and Sportsbook. Already people are starting to file in. You got the games on the big screen TVs. You got leather recliners. You have great food and drink specials. Wonderful place. It is football watching heaven here at Rivers Casino. Also, please take a second right now to like this on whatever platform you're watching it. Share it for us. Leave a comment in the comment section on YouTube if that's where you're watching, and we'll try to get to your comment. You can leave a score prediction. We'll get to that. We'll read it over the as we stream here on YouTube. But please interact with us, and we will try to get back to you. Jay, let's talk quickly about 16 days off between games. Is there a rustiness element involved? Is that difficult when you have that much time in the middle of a season? I know there's some upside to it, some rest, but what about just not playing for 16 days?
I'm a big rest guy.
Yeah?
I'm a big rest guy. Everyone knows that. However, rest is good when it's kind of equal. In that, like, I believe that the Redskins coming off a game, a hard-fought NFC East game that they ended up losing, is more advantageous for the Redskins. And I think they have a little bit of upper hand when it comes just to the game. Now, they're not advantageous because of all the injuries, right? But I think there will be rust from the Eagles, at least that first quarter, first half, maybe.
Yeah.
There will be some rust.
Timing?
Just timing and realizing, you know, when you start to play the NFC East, it elevates a little bit more than a normal NFL football game. The NFC East is a little bit different, and to get back into that is going to be a little bit tough coming off the Jets.
All right, now I'm going to let you get away with one old team name reference. All right, I've written it down, Jason.
Shoot, Washington football team.
Any more than that,
I say WFT.
We find you in Kangaroo Court after that.
All right, yeah.
Eagles Court. Eagles Court.
Yeah, Eagles Court. We'll find
James
you every
McCaffrey.
single time. You've already reached your quota.
What? They have to, if they want me to just get rid of it, they have to totally get rid of get a name and get rid of the color suit.
Yeah.
Right.
Get a name, Washington. What do you expect us to do here?
Get rid of the color suit.
Adam, how often do we hear, just as reporters, when players are coming off a tough loss, they always say, can't wait to get back out there. In fact, some of them will say, I'm glad we're playing on Thursday night coming off a tough loss because they want to get back out there.
True.
I think that brings to light what Jason's saying about having a little bit too much rest. And Washington is coming off a tough division loss, so I'm sure that they're aching to get back out there to you know,
they're not
do
playing
the best
with
they
much
can.
though.
Well, yeah, but see, that's the thing, right? That's the thing. They got humiliated at home. The score was not really indicative of how that game went against Dallas. They got handled. Micah Parsons was wreaking havoc on their quarterbacks. Taylor Heineke got hurt in that game, knocked around. They've got a COVID issue, which we're going to get into.
Right.
It's gotten a little better over the last 24 hours. The benefit, of course, mostly, not all of the benefit, and we'll explain why. One of their key players went on the COVID list yesterday. But the fact of the matter is, they came off a tough game at home, very, very physical.
Yeah.
They got beaten up. They were down by a lot. They made the game closer than it should have been. But, you said, I don't know if they definitely want to get on the winning track.
No doubt about it.
I don't think it's one of those situations where they go, oh, it was a tight game. Yeah, let's get back on track. I just think it's a situation where they've been hit with this COVID thing. They're very lucky that the league agreed with the Players Association to move the game back. Mm-hmm. They definitely benefited from it, way more than the Eagles did.
That is true.
There's no question.
They got a lot more players back.
Well, the Eagles got jerked around a little bit. Just to me, because when you make that mandate as the NFL, as the organization, that if you are refusing vaccines and so on and so forth, even if you do get the vaccine and you get decimated, we're going to forfeit the games, right? You're going to lose that. If you make that call early in the season and that was part of your scare tactic for the rest of the league,
you
go follow through it.
Yeah. Well, that's what it amounted to being, a scare tactic, and of course they use that wiggle room in the language of a medical emergency to be able to move the game.
Yeah, they didn't want to. It's money. When it comes down to it, it's dollars.
Interesting. Money on the players' side, because the Players Association was the driving force behind this. The NFL could have played the games on the NFL would have played the game on Sunday and made their money. The networks would have made their money.
Yeah.
Interestingly, I thought that both of tonight's game we talked about this on the pod, would have been split so that the networks could have 2 different games on at 2 different times so the world could watch all of them, but they're both going off on the same time. And Adam raised a point that there's a time that they feel is key for watching
they're
football.
both regional. Like the East Coast will get this game.
Right.
If you're West Coast, I get it. They're regional games, but to me, because Fox owns both of these games,
Yeah.
I would still want to maximize the audience, but there's certain
That's what I would
rules.
have done, yeah.
But I know this. There's certain people who do analytics on television and when to have it. Something about the 4 p.m. West Coast time. I learned this at Twitch. They said it's huge. They get a huge.
They're
bump.
lazy out there on the West Coast. They leave work at 4 o'clock.
Probably they do when they go to when I would go to NBA games, the Laker games. No one would show up until the second
right.
quarter. But that's another story for another time.
Yeah, definitely. All right, let's get into the big story because it's our breaking news for both quarterback situations. You start with Washington, as we mentioned, Taylor Heineke, Kyle Allen, the backup, both out on the COVID-19 list. One of 2 of 15 players, I believe, or 14 now, that Washington won't have because of COVID-19. And it'll be Garrett Gilbert. Now, the backup for Washington will be, I believe, Kyle Shermer.
Kyle Shermer, Pat's son.
Pat Shermer's son.
Yeah, played at Vanderbilt.
Wow.
Yeah,
I know him.
I was going to say, have you ever met him?
Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah, you probably met him when he was like this tall, right?
Yeah. It's funny, you see this stuff, and the dream come true for Pat. So
I'm sure.
He's a good guy. Pat's a good guy.
So he will be the backup. Now, as it pertains to the Eagles, Jay, they did get a little bit of a benefit by having 2 extra days now because Jalen Hurts was nursing an ankle injury. We all know that. So my understanding is that the 2 days gave him even more time to be able to benefit. As I understand it, and Adam has backed me up with his sourcing too, Jalen was kind of 50-50 whether he was going to be able to start if this game was on a Sunday. You guys remember, when the whole team came back from the bye Wednesday, he was still sore. John Clark put a video out. You could see him kind of with a little bit of a limp as he was walking into the bubble. As I understand it, and I reported before the Jets game, it wasn't just the ankle. He had some bruising in the area that you could feel all the way back in the heel.
It's his left foot, correct?
On his left foot.
Okay.
He was also checked out again just to make sure that everything was right. And I was told that the test came back fine. There was nothing structurally wrong. But clearly, when they got back, he was not 100%, and he may not be now. So this extra time gives him a little bit more of a chance to get himself ready to be able to play. Adam, do you have anything on top of that?
That's actually what I've heard. Prior to Friday's practice, after Thursday, one person who would know said he was still sore, called him very questionable, which to me is less than 50-50. But the extra 2+ days clearly has helped him. I would agree with your assessment on it. So the question to me now, guys, moving this forward is, could he last the whole game? And because he's a big part of the run game, can you run with him, being that his plant foot, by the way, is probably tender, though it's gotten better. I just wonder how much you can do with a guy with an ankle like this.
I think he can play just because you get so many different anti-inflammatories. You get all type of medicine that can get you through, and your adrenaline is a wonder. The things that you can do on a Sunday that you couldn't do on Thursday or Friday because of that excitement for the football game takes that pain away. So I think he's a competitor, and I think that he can play. Will he play? I don't know that answer. I don't know, what they're thinking up front, upstairs, not the coaching, upstairs. I don't know what they're thinking.
It sounds like the expectation is he will start tonight, but as we've heard Nick Sirianni say, Gardner Minshew has been prepared more than usual to be able to play in case Jalen Hurts either can't make it through or is injured again.
One thing, though, I found interesting is Sirianni said they were going to list him as questionable. Guess what? They didn't.
They did not.
They didn't have an injury designation, which kind of surprised me. Now, I understand he said that, did he say that Friday? I think he said that Friday, right?
That Friday, I believe, yeah.
Right. Now, obviously, 2 days later, actually 3 days later, they put it out on Monday, that designation.
So does that kind of, for me, if he doesn't have an injury designation, right, meaning that he's a healthy.
Yeah,
it means
he should start tonight.
That means he's probable.
That means he should start.
Yes.
Absolutely.
That's the way I look at it. Yep.
So if he isn't starting, that should tell us everything we need to know.
We're maybe doing some funny thing, unless there was a last-minute setback, which always could be the case.
I think Adam said something that was really funny. That Nick Sirianni kind of said that Minshew's over-prepared basically this week because he had more reps.
Right.
So we'll see how it goes. It's pretty interesting to me. So I'm looking forward to seeing it. I've been having this debate with a lot of people.
Right. And by the way, again, I'll mention the Eagles have not taken the field in 16 days. It's been longer for Jalen Hurts, who didn't play against the Jets. It's been it's been more than 3 weeks since he's played in an actual game. So a lot to monitor with that situation. Let's get into the injury report because this might take up the entire show once we get to Washington.
We'll sum it up,
Yeah, the Eagles isn't too bad. I mean, we know Landon Dickerson is out. He is on the reserve COVID list. The fact that he did not participate in the Sunday walkthrough, which is in the morning, leads me to believe that he would not have been able to play on Sunday. So that's, everybody thinks, oh, we got screwed. They moved the game. Now we lost Landon Dickerson. Now he probably wasn't going to be able to play Sunday either. Andre Dillard, the left tackle, backup left tackle, also on the reserve COVID list. So you're going to see a lot of backups, third and fourth stringers both as backups and also as starters tonight on the Eagles offensive line. There's no Landon Dickerson. Brandon Brooks still out. Jack Driscoll out for the year. And, of course, there's somebody else I'm missing. Oh, Isaac Seumalo out for the year. Yeah. So Nate Herbig, Sua Opeta expected to be your offensive guards tonight. So we're talking about some real backup bottom of the barrel there for the Eagles.
Yeah, look, but the thing is, we know Herbig has been a very versatile backup. He's a guy they really trust. Now, Opeta, Jason Kelsey stood up for him. A good athlete, better than average athlete for his size. He's got pretty good strength. The word in scouting is that he kind of sometimes has trouble sorting.
Right.
That's why he was an undrafted free agent. But they like him enough, and particularly the offensive line coach. If Jeff Stoughton likes the guy, you got to trust him. So he's here, and he's probably going to start tonight.
We're going to get more into the Eagles' offensive line situation as we go. I want to go to Washington. Obviously, Tyler Heineke, we told you, and Kyle Allen are out tonight on COVID-19 list. J.D. McKissick, they're very good pass-catching running. Washington always has a pass-catching running back who kills the Eagles, right? There was Chris Thompson.
Oh, yeah.
Before Chris Thompson, there was a guy whose name I can't remember, but he used to catch little balls out of the backfield all the time against the Eagles.
Huge,
Yeah, they always have someone like that to hurt the Eagles. He's out tonight with a concussion.
B. Mitch, then he became an Eagle.
Yes, that's right.
For the old-timers here. But, yeah, McKissick actually just got put on IR within the last hour.
Yeah.
So that's that, and he had that really bad concussion on the Monday night game.
Right.
Curtis Samuel now, he's out. He has a hamstring injury, and the thing with Samuel was he suffered a groin injury in their OTAs. He had been down for nearly 4 months. He just couldn't get over it.
Right.
He got over it, and now he's got a hamstring injury.
Can't get right.
Logan Thomas with the ACL is out for the season. Unfortunately, he got hurt after he had come back from the ACL injury. Cornelius Lucas is their top backup tackle. He's on the COVID list. And here's the big one, which we alluded to. Brandon Sheriff, now this one, unfortunately for them, for the game being moved, he went on the COVID list yesterday, so he is not available. Wes Schweitzer, who's the other starting guard, he hurt his ankle. He's done. Chase Roulier, their starting center, he's done. He broke his ankle. He's out for the season. And Tyler Larson,
the backup.
Yeah, he was their number 2 center. He's out, so they're going to their third string center who just came off the COVID list, Keith Ishmael, their 5th-round pick.
No relation to Rocket.
Yeah, I don't think so.
All right.
So he's a 5th-rounder, and he's going to start tonight. Just came off the COVID list. He's out of San Diego State. He's a little bit undersized. That, to me, is such a great matchup. The Eagles must win the matchup on the interior here.
So they're basically down to backups at both guard spots. Yeah. Their third-string center. All right, so that just tells
Flowers is one of the starters.
All right, I'm sorry. Backup at one of the 2 guard spots and down to a third stringer at center. Yeah. So, clearly the Eagles' defensive line needs to capitalize off that matchup. Speaking of defensive lines, now Washington's gotten some good news. They were able to get Montez Sweat back. They were able to get Jonathan Allen off the COVID reserve list. Deron Payne was fine to begin with, so that's pretty good for them. They've also gotten Ioannidis back, and Tim Settle just about an hour ago, maybe a little longer, was activated, giving them their 4-deep defensive tackle rotation. That's big for them. We know Chase Young has been out with an ACL tear. He's on IR. Their linebackers, John Bostic, he's been out on IR with a pec injury. David Mayo.
Who backed him up. Yep.
David Mayo is out on COVID-19. And Cam Curl, their best safety, is also on the reserve COVID-19 list. So they are down 2 guys in the secondary because of COVID-19. Troy Apke will probably see more time. And the other 2 being Benjamin St. Juste, their rookie corner who's played well, and Kendall Fuller.
Who's a starter at corner.
Who is a starter at corner.
Yeah, that's a big one on COVID. So, I still expect the Eagles will get into the matchups, but I still expect them to come out with their identity. But when they throw, they should have more success because if you look at St. Juste, who's a rookie corner who they loved, is playing a lot. Kendall Fuller's their number 2 corner. There's an advantage there when you throw it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. As for the Eagles, really from a transaction standpoint, we mentioned Jack Anderson was activated just about an hour ago, so he'll be able to be a backup offensive lineman tonight. And also Quez Watkins, who was placed on the reserve COVID list earlier, several days ago, or last week I should say, is back and will be able to play in the game. So that's good news for the Eagles. A reminder, if you get a chance, leave us a comment, share the show, retweet the show, tell us you love the show, praise the show, anything you can do to make the show more watched. We'd really appreciate it. And of course, it is the holidays, everybody, and we're getting really close to the big day on Saturday, Christmas. So if you're still looking for a last-minute gift and you're all out of money, all you need is a few pennies, because you can win your gift on Deal Dash, the online shopping platform that's actually fun. Deal Dash is the longest-running penny auction website and app around, and some of the things you can get on Deal Dash are just too good to be true. We've seen a car sell for $900, a brand new TV for less than $2. So don't be a loser. Don't pay full retail price for things you want. Get on Deal Dash. You can go to dealdash.com or download the app, and when you register, use the promo code ITB for a special offer for some bonus free bids. All right, ready to get into the matchups?
Yeah,
all the
let's go,
injuries,
man.
everything?
Yep,
all right,
yep,
no more
yep.
Joe Webb. That's it. Done with Joe Webb.
Well, there are a lot of backups in this game, though.
There are a lot of backups. All right, well, given the quarterback situations for both teams, and that this is the first matchup between these storied NFC East rivals, guys, I would imagine there's going to be a lot of running on the table tonight. We know that Washington kind of stole a page from the Eagles' playbook. When they started off 2-5, they shifted gears. I'm sorry, they started off 2-6. They shifted gears to a running game to jumpstart their offense. They have averaged 34 rushing attempts a game since the start of Week 9. That ranks 4th in the NFL. Of course, the Eagles number 1 at 40 rushing attempts per game. Antonio Gibson has emerged as a workhorse. He's got 105 carries since Week 9, 4th most in football. And because of that, we saw Washington win 4 straight games. And then that streak came to an end last Sunday against Dallas. But Adam, the run game is kind of like the in vogue thing now, right? I mean, we've got Cleveland, we got Indianapolis, we got Minnesota, New England, of course. And now the Eagles and Washington have kind of jumped aboard this kind of trend now of being a dominant run team. Is this a flash in the pan, or is this a changing dynamic in the NFL?
Well, you have to understand that Cleveland's foundation under Kevin Stefanski has been running the ball since day one. Same with Frank Reich believes in balance, but he's got Jonathan Taylor, who's been, for my money, the MVP. I know a running back probably won't win it, but he's been unbelievable. Now, New England's always believed in it. Without Tom Brady, it's now more of a running game.
Yeah.
Because you've got a rookie quarterback. Minnesota, you know Mike Zimmer, run the football, hide the quarterback, which they tend to do if you watch last night's game.
Sure.
But now, there are some interesting situations. So with Washington, so Ron Rivera talked about it. He said that he and Scott Turner, his offense coordinator, sat down and said, okay, how can we help our football team? We're a little bit too pass happy with Taylor Heineke, who, to me, and I won't play tonight, but Heineke at his best is a guy that if you don't ask him to throw the ball a ton, you could win. He's a athletic quarterback who could make some throws, but you don't want to put a lot on him, and they were probably doing that too much. Plus, their defense was terrible to start the season.
Right.
Well, Jack Del Rio changed his defense. They're going with more zone coverage, a lot more zone coverage. And the big thing, as you talked about, they turned to Antonio Gibson. Look, he's a guy that they weren't quite sure how much volume he could handle. He's a guy who's new to playing running back. We had Ryan Silverfield on our show, his head coach at Memphis, said that when they got him to Memphis, he was a slot receiver. He had to learn how to play running back. Now, he's a big guy, about 225, but he learned to handle volume as you gave those numbers out. And he's handled it really, really well. So far right now, it's working for them. It's helped turn around their season, but I don't see a trend as much as it's situational. Washington had to do something, so they went to the run game and better defense. And if you look at those other teams, yeah, Baltimore's going to run the football.
Yeah, maybe the trend, Jay, is that teams are, as Adam just mentioned, teams are more willing now to admit that their quarterback shouldn't throw the ball 40 times a game if that quarterback is not Patrick Mahomes or is not Aaron Rodgers, and are more willing to make the adjustment to running the ball. As Adam mentioned, Cleveland's been doing it for a couple of years. Minnesota's been doing it for a couple of years, even though they're paying Kirk Cousins $34 million. So I feel like there's a recognition there. Maybe even started with Tennessee. Get Ryan Tannehill, you run the ball with Derrick Henry, though, where they're just more willing to run than have to ask a mediocre quarterback to try to throw the ball 45 times a game.
Well, it's smart. People are just starting to think for themselves rather than going with the trend. the trend has been past happy NFL, and people are saying, hey, that's good for, Mahomes, that's good for Rodgers, that's good for Brady.
Right.
But I don't have those guys, so let me win the best way this team can win.
Sure.
And with Washington football team, you have Heineke, you have Allen, you have all of these guys. It's pretty similar to what we have at quarterback. Not the best at throwing the football, but they have good offensive linemen when they're healthy.
Yep.
And can change the game that way. And that's the way you have to play the game. You have to play the game with running the ball. Your defense gets better automatically, mysteriously. When you start running the ball, the defense gets better. I don't know how that happens. Maybe because they're more rested and or whatever. But I think that's the way that you have to when you don't have an elite quarterback. You got to do it. You owe it to the locker room. These guys have been sacrificing so much for the team and for you as a coach. You got to put the best players on the field, one, and two, you have to give them the best chance to win the football games, and it's not your ego or what the organization maybe upstairs wants.
When you said on your show, and in our show, our pregame show, to start the season, the Eagles, if they want to win, they have to run the football. What exactly were you thinking at that point? What did you mean? Because it turned out to be quite prophetic. It was 100% true, but what did you mean then?
Quarterback is unproven as a passer. You have young, immature receivers. Right? And I'm not saying immature in a bad way. They're just young. They don't know. They haven't developed yet. And when you have that combination, the only thing that you can do is run the ball. Okay, what's the other strength of my team? Running the football. We've drafted Landon Dickerson, Kelsey, Lane, all of these guys. The strength is my offensive line. So the only thing I can do with a quarterback that's unproven as a thrower, but he can run, good offensive line, good defensive line, let me run the football and play defense. Run the football and play defense, see how that works, and I think we did.
You speak in veiled tongue, my friend, sometimes, but I catch everything you say, and so do many of our viewers. So interesting points on that. I think as far as Jalen Hurts is concerned tonight and how healthy he really is, I think we'll know early, not necessarily by even his play, but how the plays are called. If they are downhill and under center, and you're seeing a lot of back to handing off, I think that's going to be a little bit of a tip-off on how they feel about his ankle and where he's at. If they're in shotgun and they're trying to run some zone read, well, then that, to me, signals that they're more comfortable with the ankle and the ability of Jalen Hurts to get in and out of the pocket a little bit and run and make some plays on his own.
I agree with that. I'm still wondering if he's starting tonight. I don't know. Everyone's taking it as a foregone conclusion. I don't know.
It would be an upset. It would be I thought they did a good job of trying to hide the fact that Hurts was not going to play against the Jets until they couldn't. You and I kind of knew that Friday that was the case. But this time you haven't seen any reporting. The game is obviously 2.5 hours, but I'm surprised that there's nothing out there that said, okay, definitively, it's going to be this.
Yeah.
I find it interesting.
That's true. To Jason's point, what we don't know and what I would love to be a fly on the wall or at the NovaCare to know is, has Jalen Hurts run straight line fast in practice? Have they done that with him? Right? Because that's a big test for him and his abilities. Can he run? Can he take off? Can he do things outside the pocket?
Yeah.
Have they done that, or have they tried to give it as much time as possible to let it heal? Because if you do that, you risk an aggravation, right?
Yeah, the straight line part, or
even a cone drill.
The straight line part they've probably done to see how fast he can go and that stuff. It's when you start to get redirected at ankle, like the cone drills. The things that he has to do on the football field to outrun an in his own read.
Do they ever have the quarterbacks run the cone drill?
They have all that. They have all the cone drills. They have the bags where you have to go over. You can see all of that stuff there.
Because that's where you get your change of direction and your shiftiness there. Well, interesting. I imagine maybe they'll work him out on the field a little bit tonight, and maybe that's why you haven't heard something, just to see where he's at with everything.
That is a lot. So the GM will come down along with the head trainer and the position coach, maybe the head coach because it's a quarterback, come down before the game to give a nod if we think Jalen is good enough to play based on that pregame workout. That happens every game.
That's got to happen
with those guys.
Because if you just ask Jalen
the next half an hour, it's typically about 2 to 2.5 hours before the game.
If you just ask Jalen, he's going to say, his leg could be hanging off somewhere else.
And that's when the injury report comes out because they got to designate that guy up or down there.
Yeah, inactives at 5:30. Yep.
All right, well, we will definitely pay attention to the inactives for that. Listen, let's talk about the running game, because this is going to be the second time this year, and hopefully the first that Miles Sanders and Jordan Howard can be a thunder and lightning combo for the entire game, because Jordan Howard got hurt, I think it was against the Saints, in the game that Miles Sanders came back to play in. So we haven't yet seen the full dynamic, but we did see Miles Sanders show, at least in one game, that he can kind of be that workhorse back. Against the Jets, he ran 24 times for 120 yards. The 24 carries is the bigger number to me, because that was the second most carries, most carries of his career. 120 yards, the second most rushing total of his career. But for everybody who wondered last year, why doesn't Doug give this guy the ball in the fourth quarter? Can he not handle it? Can he not be that guy? Well, I think for at least one game, he showed you what he could do, Adam.
Yeah, and he got what they call those dirty yards, those tough inside yards. This is what Greg Cosell told us, that when he watched his tape last season, Greg flat out said he had no idea what people were talking about. He said the naysayers, the tape doesn't reflect that. And this year he's taken it to a new level. We know he's had some injuries, dropping the football, which he hasn't done this season so far.
He was great.
He's catching a lot, but he did well in that game.
3 for 3 against the Jets in catches.
Yeah.
So he's not putting the ball on the ground, and he's running tough, and that's what you have to do. This is what you want from this guy. Look, this is a huge game. This is absolutely a huge game. And this is a game tonight where he's got to show, again, he's got an ankle injury. And I know Jordan Howard's coming back. They've got Boston Scott, who's been like the unsung hero of this group. He's been terrific, other than that fumble. But having all 3 guys available, they've got an ability here to control the clock here.
I made an argument, Jason, that in this number 3 running back spot, I know you're laughing because I'm talking good on a Penn State guy.
There we go.
But no, for the number 3 spot, I suspect they will go with Boston Scott over Kenneth Gainwell, because and then you tell me what you think. In a playoff game, a playoff caliber game, or implications game, late in the year like this, I think you'd want the guy who's got more experience, who is better in blitz pickup, who can do go back to the Jets game. That was a well-run rub route with Dallas Goedert that led to that touchdown. Now, you could say the Jets played it as poorly as anybody could play a rub route, no doubt. But I don't know that the little things you can rely on Gainwell to do right now. Good runner. He's done what he's asked to do. But if I need to play one of those 3, the third running back, I think I'd feel more comfortable in this kind of game with Boston Scott.
Well, yeah, he's been there and done it.
Right.
So I agree with you. I agree with your assessment that veteran players usually make less mistakes when the game's on the line. Rookies are going to burn you at some point. You just hope it's at a time where you can teach them and groom them earlier in the year. As it starts getting toward that last 4 games, rookies will hurt a lot of teams in the NFL. It will hurt a lot of teams in the NFL, but hopefully they played enough by now in order to get through some of that. But with the 2, I would choose Boston Scott.
So as a rookie, and you say, okay, at some point the rookie will burn the coaches or whatever.
Yeah.
What do you recall your struggles your rookie season? Anything in particular?
I remember fumbling against Tampa Bay on that 63-yard field goal in order to Tampa Bay to win that game. It was maybe in the second quarter, so I dropped caught a pass, ended up fumbling. Second time in my life fumbling. It just doesn't happen. I'm like, dude, I don't fumble. How did this happen? Rondé Barber, pop, and got it out of there. Those things happen. And I didn't fumble maybe once more in my career after that, maybe.
How long did it mentally take you to get over that? I mean, were you sulking at all, or are you like, all right, hey, this happens, it won't happen again, I'll make sure it doesn't happen again?
I remember Lito coming up to me and saying, hey, Rook, every rookie makes a mistake, don't make it again.
You have to do it in Lito voice.
Yeah.
Hey, Rook.
Yeah,
hey, Rook.
But yeah, he was. Now that was a big play. That was a big play, and that same drive we gave up a big return that gave him a field. And I was on that team as well. So rookies are going to burn you. Right. So hopefully it's not too bad.
I'm going to absolve you in 2 ways. One, if I remember correctly, it was like 110 degrees on the field that day, right?
No excuse.
All right, it was really Donovan
that was
threw
a throw up. Yeah,
Donovan threw up.
Yeah.
Oh, right. That one was legit because he ran like 45 yards on a play and then he threw up.
That game.
How do you remember this?
I remember everything about that
game. Maybe the most exciting football individual football play I've ever seen. A football player. Brian Westbrook catches a screen and takes to the house. The receivers on that play, it was 4 wide. We didn't block a person maybe 3 times. All of us missed the block about 3 times in that play, and he took it to the house. Like he made all 11 guys
miss. Awesome.
Yeah, that is incredible.
Block defenders miss. That's the deal.
That is unbelievable.
He's so special.
All right, the second thing I'll say is, man, Bruce Gradkowski ran for 8 yards on 3rd and 7 to set up the field goal. You can't. That wasn't on you.
No,
How can you let Bruce Gradkowski get 8 yards up the middle on 3rd and 7?
He's an NFL player.
Awful.
Right.
Awful.
Yep.
That wasn't on you though. So, but no. All right, interesting stuff. Let's talk about the running game as we move from the running backs. Obviously, the Eagles are impacted here on the front line there with Sua Opeta, who's probably going to start left guard. And Adam's note from a couple weeks ago that Sua Opeta can only apparently play left guard, which is something that's
he could play right, but
I mean, he's only functional at left guard.
his real spot where he's comfortable would be left guard. So we'll see. But man,
Nate Herbig at right guard.
Yeah.
Now, and it's not like you're just playing anybody. You're going up against Deron Payne. You're going up against Jonathan Allen. And then their backups, Ioannidis and Settle, are really good too.
Good, yep.
How difficult? Like, do you, as an offensive coordinator, Jay? We've seen this offensive line movement, right? Especially when they're running out of the shotgun, doing zone read. They're pulling guards. They're running screens. When you put two guys like that in there, though, how much does that change the dynamic of your offense?
I think it changed the left side dramatically. Opeta athletically and Landon Dickerson athletically, it's two totally different men, right? Opeta is a big guy, but he can't move, can't bend. He's not as powerful as Dickerson, even though Opeta is pretty powerful.
Right.
So I think it affects the left side of the line, tremendously. Herbig has been in there, so he's settled in a little bit in comparison. So I think it's gonna hurt us a little bit on the left side, and that could hurt Mailata. Because it's a lot. There's a bunch of stunts. There's a bunch of calls, taps, and communications with those two guys that he's been used to, Dickerson, for most of the season.
Right.
Having a new guy there, that can affect him as well. So you never know how that shakes out.
Yeah, I mean, think about the difference in a combo block between Mailata and Dickerson. That's 700 pounds of man coming at you if you're the DN, right? Or even if he's going up to the second level, as opposed to now Mailata and Opeta, who again is not the athlete that Dickerson is, not the talent, and not even as massive as Dickerson is. So that's an advantage for Washington, which is thin at the end, right, without Chase Young.
And quite frankly, no one has stopped the Eagles' running game. Even when they got blown out at the Raiders, they ran for well over 100 yards. So this might be a test as we talk about this. This might be the first time, I'm sure, that their coaching staff looks at it and says, okay, how are we going to win up front?
Right.
Yeah.
Because this is really difficult with those two tackles. Those two tackles, by the way, are the reason up front they've changed this defense. Because they've been incredible. Deron Payne and Allen have been awesome.
And that girth of having Dickerson there kind of frees up Kelsey a little bit. And in this game, I don't think Kelsey will be as free, just based on their defensive front in this 4-3 and how they can rotate and move inside and play a guy right over. I think it could put Kelsey in a bind a little bit this game with Opeta there.
Right. He's going to have to choose in pass protection against certain things that Washington throws. Who am I helping? Am I pivoting left to help Sua Opeta? Probably. Am I pivoting right to help Nate Herbig? Whoever I'm helping, the other guy's got a one-on-one matchup.
Yeah, when you didn't have to worry about that with Dickerson at all.
Exactly. And just to emphasize that, Jonathan Allen and Deron Payne have combined for 11 sacks this year.
Yeah.
Allen himself has 7.5. Now that's tied with Javon Hargrave and Jeffrey Simmons from the Titans for second most among defensive tackles. Of course, Aaron Donald is the most. And now you start to wonder about Hargrave's Pro Bowl not, right? Because you got Aaron Donald from the NFC. You got Jonathan Allen who's a first-round pick. Those guys always get the name recognition. So you kind of wonder if that great year, that great start by Javon Hargrave, but that middle fizzle is going to kind of cost him a Pro Bowl berth here. We'll see how that comes out.
Well, I'll tell you what, this matchup tonight for Hargrave, it's really what you want. Like we just talked about on the other side, he's got a really good matchup tonight. He must dominate.
Absolutely. By the way, Washington, fourth best run defense, allowing just under 94 rushing yards a game. And here's something really interesting. Only 26 runs this year against Washington of more than 10 yards. Half of them are from quarterbacks on scrambles and a wide receiver on an end around. So that means just 13 rushes by a running back this year of more than 10 yards against the Washington defense. You got a 46-yarder by Saquon Barkley, a 23-yarder by Alvin Kamara, and then McCaffrey and Javonte Williams each have a 15-yarder. After that, not much.
Yeah,
so Miles and Jordan are going to have to work for it tonight.
They give up about 3.8 yards per carry to just running backs. That's actually top 5. this is going to be fascinating because as we break down both sides of the football for the Eagles, both teams have advantages. And they happen to be in the interior for both sides.
Right.
Because you got two backup guards for the Eagles, where Washington has got these two studs inside, and then you've got the Eagles' interior of the D-line, which is terrific.
Yep.
And you're going against a third-string center.
Yeah. It's crazy how they have the identical issues here with the interior of the offensive line.
They should dominate.
Look, the biggest concern tonight, along with the backup starting, is if someone gets injured on the Eagles' offensive line. I mean, their backups right now are going to be, on the offensive line, are going to be Brett Toth, LaRaven Clark, and Jack Anderson, who they just activated after being on IR, and who has never played in an NFL game. He's a guy that they claimed off waivers from the Bills. Adam had a nugget earlier in the year. They just liked what he saw. We know the Eagles invest heavily around the league on an offensive line. So he might be a talented kid, Jack Anderson, but he's never played. So if Opeta, Kelsey, or Herbig have to limp off the field tonight, they're in dire straits.
They cannot afford an injury. No, you're right. In fact, I remember you had that running joke, if we see Brett Toth in Week 17 last year.
Yes.
And that'll be a problem. And he had to play, so that you don't want to hear his name. Now, I will say this, though. We know how much they like him. He's done a good job of at least developing as a backup. But you don't want him in a game like this, in a huge game. And I hate to say must win. It's a very important game. You don't want to see him today.
That'd be difficult.
You mentioned the Redskins running game, 95 yards. And
Redskins. There we go.
No, it's not Redskins running game. Though that is too. I'm out. The Washington football team's defense and their ability to stop the run. I think that's just it speaks to their secondary play. When you're not giving up those yards down the field or big runs, they tackle great. Landon Collins curl, but their corners tackle. Kendall Fuller's nose is always in. He's not playing tonight, but William Jackson's willing to tackle. And I think you kind of stunt everyone's run game. So we'll see if the Eagles are able to adjust tonight and if they are able to run the ball effectively, but they're built to stop the run with their starters. Now, they have a few guys out.
Right.
But that mentality is going to be with the backups because their starters are so good at the run.
No doubt about it. All right, we're going to take a quick break right here to hear from our friends at Sky Motor Cars, including the voice of the Eagles, Mr. Merrill Reese.
Motor Cars in Westchester is a different sort of dealership. All it takes is one look at their Highline pre-owned vehicles that people over the country want and need. Owner Brett Schulter, make sure you don't spend a dime of your money before you purchase the car. Sky Motor Cars allows you to make all the decisions regarding your next vehicle. At Sky Motor Cars, you never have to spend more than necessary. Visit SkyMotorCars.com today or call 610-918-7225.
All right, a big thanks to our friends at Sky Motor Cars. If you go check them out in Westchester, PA, walk in there and make sure you tell them Adam and Jeff sent you. You will get a great deal.
And Steven Nelson, too.
Steven Nelson, who is a recent guest on Inside the Birds TV. You can check it out. Very, very good interview. Very honest,
awesome.
very candid.
I had no idea what to expect. He was awesome. He's got, I don't want to say a chip on his shoulder. He's a pretty passionate guy.
No one's ever given him anything.
I know, he's on a one-year deal, right?
Yeah.
So let me ask you this question.
By the way, we asked him about you.
That's actually part of what I wanted to get to.
And it was a good part of the show.
How do you think he's played this season?
He hadn't played well.
Oh.
He hadn't played, extremely well. He hasn't. He has his moments and times. When I say that, I'm talking about when you sign a guy, a veteran guy, you want that guy to be able to hold down the other side of the field. And there's times in the game where you can see the team game planning for him. And that's usually not a good sign as far as your play and your production. I know you have Darius Slay on the other side and you're saying, hey, it's a 50-50 chance, let me go with him. But there's times in man-to-man coverage where he's not looking at the right things and he's getting burnt. When he's in zone, he's a much better player. And but there's room for improvement. I'm not saying he's terrible or anything like that, but he's not playing as well as he would like, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Now, do you think part of it, though, is because when you and Q would talk about it, I know you guys had pointed out, he's very lucky sometimes they didn't throw it at him.
Yeah, and that's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the production that you see on the field. I'm talking about when you are looking at the football tape, you're looking at the tape and you're saying, hey, if they would have threw it to this guy at this moment in time, the receiver got a plus grade. That's what we're looking at.
Right.
We're looking at it, okay, the receiver won this route.
Right.
he's in position to catch the football, and he's not close to him.
I remember the Broncos game. You felt he could have been exposed if Teddy was looking.
Yeah,
that was the game.
There's time. There's
others. Yeah.
But the thing that you love about Steven Nelson is this: is that you're going to get a fiery competitor. He loves this football game. He loved this game, and you want guys like him on your team. All the other stuff he's gonna work through. His heart is going to put him in position and to make plays and make the team better.
And of course, Jason knows firsthand because you were teammates with Steven Nelson.
Yeah.
His rookie year in Kansas City, your last year in league, I believe 2015.
Yeah.
There you go. All right, Jason, something you've also said recently on your show with Quentin Mikell Q&A on Inside the Birds is that the Eagles have a Batman in Devontae Smith. They're looking for a Robin in anybody else among the wide receivers. Will someone emerge tonight among Quez Watkins, Jalen Reagor, Greg Ward, John Hightower, anybody? Tyree Jackson, perhaps? Will there be another vertical weapon that emerges in this Eagles offense, especially knowing that the Washington football team will be without Kendall Fuller and are banged up in the secondary? Now listen to this stat. This is unbelievable, all right? If you combine the catches, receptions, and yards from the Eagles' top 3 wide receivers this year, Devontae Smith, Jalen Reagor, and Quez Watkins, that still didn't match what Cooper Kupp was doing entering Week 14 action for the Rams. He had produced more than all 3 Eagles wide receivers put together. Watkins, the Eagles receivers are at 107 yards for 107 catches, 1,400 yards, 6 touchdowns. Cooper Kupp, 113 receptions, 1,489 yards, and 12 touchdowns. Is that somewhat embarrassing?
And there are 3 games left.
That is crazy.
Well, let's put this in perspective too. Yes, the team, the receivers should have more than him, but this is a historic season for him as well. And there's talks of him maybe possibly getting to 2,000. You never know what can happen in these next few games.
CK2K.
It could happen.
They're 4 tackling tonight and then +3. Yeah, this guy's unbelievable.
It can happen. So he's having an outstanding year.
What is it with Cooper Kupp, very quickly? Why does he get open all the time?
Well, first of all, he
Scheme?
understands no, it's not scheme.
Okay.
Because he can run routes. There's guys that I'll say, okay, he's a scheme player. He isn't. Cooper Kupp is a football player, an athlete. He's a student of the game. He understands coverage as well as any receiver in this league. When he's hot, he's always in position, and they put him in a position to thrive. When you have a guy like that can pick up the hot read and know where he is, but he can break you down too. There's times where there's one-on-one plays where he's beating some of the best names in football one-on-one, and he has that ability. So he has the route running technique, and he's faster than everyone gives him credit for.
Yeah, been impressive to see him keep it up even with Robert Woods' injury. Both of those guys, technicians. I want to go back to the Eagles' number 2 here. A lot of fans are done with Jalen Reagor. They feel like he should be benched. They go back to a few years ago when Nelson Aguilar was really struggling and maybe sitting down helped him out. But you have said no. You have got to let this kid play and continue to grow. Why are you so insistent on that?
Well, I think that we're comparing him to other people. And you got to remember that we didn't draft Justin Jefferson. We didn't. All right? I said it, we didn't. You got to get over it. It's not Jalen Reagor's fault. He's not in. He didn't pick himself. Right. So you have to give an opportunity to a guy that was picked in the first round a couple years to try to figure it out. And hopefully that 3rd year when it's time to prove it, that 4th year when it's time to prove it, he's going through the fire and he's able to come out on the other side. Also, too, this is a different criticism that he's getting from any time in his past, right? He's always been the best player.
Sure.
Seeing how he adapts, how he understands, and how he grows from this, you got to give that kid an opportunity. So, am I enamored with this play? No. Do I think he's underachieved so far? According to our expectation and also his expectation. I think that there's a lot of room for improvement. And I think that he can play better. I understand the fans' frustration as well.
Right.
Because you do want a guy that can help out, i.e. that Robin, and give us some production, and also just show up in moments. It's a step in the right direction versus the Jets.
Right.
Receiver-wise, not on kick and punt return. That spoke more to his mentality. hopefully we can see a guy emerge out of this. But I want to see him do better.
Well, Washington will be throwing out a guy named Danny Johnson tonight at one of those cornerback spots, so we'll see if Jalen Reagor can take advantage of that matchup. All right, thank you again for tuning in to Inside the Birds pregame live. Jeff Mosher, Adam Kaplan, Jason Avant. And now let's hear from our friends at Rivers Casino and Sportsbook.
This is my city. This is a city that knows how to play. A city that's in it for the win. So I go to the place that gets that. Where they know how Philly likes to play. And where I know my seat is always ready. This is my place.
All right, big thanks to our friends here at Rivers Casino and Sportsbook. Come on down, watch the game tonight. It'll be a great time. Already people filing in. Great food, great drinks. Like I call it, football watching heaven. All right, it is time for our weekly segment with former Eagles Pro Bowl safety Quentin Mikell. And in this segment, we discuss why Washington might just be a thorn in the side of the Eagles twice in the next 3 games. Okay, we're here as we always are with former Eagles Pro Bowl safety Quentin Mikell to preview this game. Q, it is the first game, first of 2 in 3 weeks between the Eagles and Washington, 2 6-7 teams that have arrived at 6-7 in different ways. Although there are some similarities after a tough start, both teams kind of relying on their ground games to stabilize them. When you look at this matchup, I want to talk about Washington first because I know you watched a lot of tape from their game against Dallas. Maybe not the scariest 53-man roster, and obviously the COVID situation has impacted them. But what is it that you saw from their Dallas game that might make you a little bit, something to watch for this weekend against the Eagles?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that this team does that scares me is they compete, right? Every game, no matter what the circumstances, no matter how far they're down, how badly they've been down, how many turnovers, bad plays, they just continue to fight and fight and fight. This team has heart. And so to me, that's the biggest thing that worries me because, with the Eagles, I consider them, especially at the skill positions, I consider them a fairly young team. And sometimes in games like this, let's say the Eagles are up by a few, a team like the Washington football team is a team that will continue to fight and get back into a game and make it a dogfight. So I'm really interested to see this team the Eagles team coming off a bye week, how their process is in terms of being ready to play, being ready to start fast, and also being ready to, when adversity hits, how will they respond to that? So it's going to be very interesting. I think it's going to be a tough game. Even though the record isn't there for this team, they're definitely a dangerous team.
What have you observed about Taylor Heineke?
Yeah, he's he's kind of he's got the gunslinger mentality. He will make some mistakes, but he's a guy that can make plays with his feet. He's kind of a wild card in the sense that he can go from, playing terrible for 3 quarters to getting hot. He's very streaky. So that's something that's definitely a worrisome thing because when he's good, he's good. When he's bad, he's very bad. And it can flip very quickly. So it's just a weird game for me. It's just one where you kind of feel it's going to be a little bit of a weird game for me in terms of I don't know how to explain it. It's going to be a tough game because anything can happen. I guess I'll put it that way. It can go from really good to really bad, from really bad to really ugly. So anything can happen in this game. So I'm a little bit nervous.
I think technically people think that the Eagles could probably go 3-1 down the stretch and still make the playoffs. But Q, if they lost today's game, that would make them 0-3 in the division. And really, it would give them 2 losses in their last 3 games, Giants and Washington, with only a win over the Jets in between. So do you feel like, and I don't know if you like this label or not, but this is the more must-win game of the next 4 for the Eagles?
Absolutely. And you hate saying that. You hate saying that as a former player, as a current player, but it is a must win. This is a game. You know, the Eagles. I think are they 1-5 in the division this year? Right?
In the NFC East?
Yeah.
Well, right
I'm
now they're 0-2. So
0-2.
they
I'm
would,
sorry.
if
I'm
they
sorry.
lose, they fall to 0-3. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm thinking like overall record for the last couple of years.
Okay.
The Eagles traditionally have in the past done well in the division. And that was really what carried those teams into the playoffs. And if you don't win your division, you're not going to make it. So this game, in my opinion, is a must win. You cannot split with Washington right now, especially with the loss to the Giants a couple weeks ago. This game is very magnified now. So this game definitely, in my opinion, is a must win. And not only that, it must be it's a must win, but they must play well. It can't be a up and down game. It can't be an ugly game. It's got to be a game coming off a bye week where this team really comes out and sets a tone and starts from the beginning to the end of the game and really starts to catapult themselves into the rest of these divisional games.
What do you think will be a bigger need for the Eagles today to beat Washington? Somebody not named Devontae Smith among the wide receivers to be a consistent threat, or is it the defensive line picking it up and being a little bit more consistent?
I think the what isn't the biggest or what is the biggest?
What do you think the Eagles need more today?
I think I think the Eagles need more from Devontae. I think he's got to. I think the defense will be fine either way. I don't think this Washington football team's offense is particularly scary. They have some skill positions that are very good. Running game wise, I think that our defensive front will handle that pretty well. But I think the bigger issue will be getting Devontae going, especially down the stretch. He's got to pick. He's been playing well. He's been doing what he's supposed to do. But we need to see that spark. We need to see that fire. We need to see him take over a game and show that he really is that guy. And I feel that with him doing that and taking over the game, hopefully that'll bring the other receivers in that core along. And so I think he definitely needs to show out this week, go out there, have some fun, and make some plays because that's what he's here for. I mean, this is divisional games, playoff stretch. This is what we brought him in for. First round pick. It's time for him to really take off.
Against the Jets, the passing game basically got by on Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert. Still waiting for that next guy, whether it's a tight end or backup tight end or another receiver, Jalen Reagor, Arcega-Whiteside, to add to that mix. Do you think they can beat Washington if somebody not named Devontae Smith or Dallas Goedert doesn't have a big game?
I think it's possible. I think it'll be much more difficult. I think we definitely need a number two. You can't now. You need now with you can't. In my opinion, you can't consider Dallas necessarily a number two. For me, he's the number one at the tight end position. Devontae is obviously number one at the receiver position. So you need a number two at the other receiver position. And so far, it hasn't really surfaced. I know Quez has shown some good things. We've all talked about Jalen and what's going on with him, but we definitely need a number two. This statistically wise, this defense for the Washington football team isn't at the top in terms of secondary play, but these guys are good. They can play, and I do think that our number two, Quez or Jalen, if they make some plays and then they get the ball in their hands and run good routes and get open against these. Listen, we're going to see some man coverage. We're going to see some zone coverage. They've got to start to exploit those holes in the defenses, and they've got to start to make plays. And I don't think it'll be harder, but I don't think it'll be a good day if we can't get our number two to get going.
No doubt. All right, it's time. Time to make the prediction. Who's going to win this game? What's going to happen? Because as we know, whoever wins this game potentially is sitting in the 7th spot in that, that last wild card spot in the NFC. So we will see what happens moving forward, but that's what's at stake today. Who wins?
Yeah, this is going to be a tough one. Traditionally, the Eagles have for the most part been pretty good coming off a bye week. Last few years, I think we're not really good coming off a bye week. I think we're 0-3 in the last few. And to the opposite of that, The Washington football team has been very good against teams coming off the bye. So I think it's going to be a tough one. I think it's going to be a close game. It's for me, because of the importance of this game, I still have the Eagles winning. They're at home coming off the bye week. It's going to be a close one, though. I'm going to say Eagles win by a field goal, let's say 27-24.
27-24. It wouldn't be an NFC East game between Washington and Philadelphia if it didn't come down to some last-second field goal or something crazy at the end of the game. You know that. You've lived through a million of them. So good stuff, Q. Thank you. That's been Q's Views with former Eagles Pro Bowl safety Quentin Mikell. Thanks, Q.
No problem. Thank you.
Great stuff, as always, from our friend Quentin Mikell, former Pro Bowl Eagles safety. And, of course, Quentin Mikell and Jason Avant do the Q&A show. It comes out on the Inside the Birds platforms every Thursday, 6 a.m. And, of course, they'll be doing one this Thursday, 6 a.m., recapping tonight's game and looking ahead for more. Can't wait for that one. Our friends Public Square and Rebel Hill are back. The team of James and Zach are behind the controls, bringing Inside the Birds to you in high definition with great graphics, videos, and more. Contact Public Square Media and Rebel Hill Productions to produce your webcast, podcast, live show, or anything else you can dream of. This team can bring it to life. Commercials, too, everything. We love Zach and James. They do an awesome job, so thanks to them for all the hard work.
Yeah, the technology, in fact, they used to do the Sky Motor Cars commercial. Some interesting technology. They used the
hamster runs around the wheel.
What's the little thing that Zach? that you had on the ground.
Slider.
Slider. Okay.
Yeah.
Really cool. Really cool.
Welcome to 2021.
I know, man.
Yeah,
Really
it's almost 2022.
Yeah.
Cameras too. It's color.
On the ground.
On the ground. I don't want any of that. All right, we have some really good questions on the YouTube chat board that we're going to get to before we get back to analyzing the game. Really good question from Ron K. Because, Jason, we talked about when you have a layoff like this, and extra time, coaches are in babysitting mode. But Ron K. wants to know, what is it like for a player who's ordinarily preparing for a 1 o'clock Sunday game or an 8 o'clock Sunday game or a Monday 8 o'clock? You know, your normal routine when all of a sudden you're playing on Tuesday evening. What is that like for a player?
It throws off your timing, so you have to kind of make it up and figure out a way to fill the time. So usually the coaches are going to just a normal schedule on the day of the game, right? So you'll wake up, you'll go to chapel or mass or whatever, go to breakfast or breakfast, chapel or mass. Then you'll have a meeting somewhere in the day and you do a walkthrough or so forth. You go back to your room, you sleep a little bit, then you come out for the pregame meal, and that's how the game goes. At some point, you got to figure out a way, do I need a nap? to me, like, because like you're going to be up a long time.
I have that question every day.
Like, and this is not like something that's like a small thing. To me, like, because the game is going to be ending at 10:30, 10:30. So you want to make sure that you're not up all day. At some point, you want to try to get a nap so you're rested for the fourth quarter.
Sure.
You know, mentally and you know, so you can catch the ball.
What time would you take that nap?
I would take that nap, I would say around 2 o'clock, like right after that last meeting. I would take that. I would eat my food or whatever it was, my lunch, take that nap, bam, out for my 2 hours, and I'm good.
Speaking of walkthrough, we're going to get the best walkthrough that anyone has ever participated in right now, because our man Ron from Jack's Bar and Grill is about to walk through here and deliver some libations.
There we go.
All right.
Oh, man, look at that.
No B-Dog tonight?
No B-Dog today.
Thanks, man.
Just he's not in the Tuesday game mode.
See, Ron, he's out of his, just like you said, being out of routine, right?
Tuesday uniform.
All right, well, who's going to win tonight?
I think the Birds got this one tonight, guys. Right? Third string quarterback starting, somebody we're not even too sure about.
Garrett Gilbert.
They got a good defense, but I think we can.
You got the Birds.
We can do it.
That's like 9 weeks in a row now, Ron. Just letting you know.
I try to be consistent.
All right, sounds great.
You never hear me say the Birds are going to lose a game. So
All right, there you go.
Guys.
Keep it consistent.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's Ron from Jack's Bar and Grill here at Rivers Casino, delivering the good stuff. All right, Ron. Hey, consistency, that's the hallmark of greatness, right? So he always picks the Eagles to win. We'll see what happens. One last question before we get back into it from Bob Abshire. I was going to talk about this, so it's a good time to bring it up. If Jalen Hurts struggles, do you yank him for Gardner Minshew tonight? which of course would never have been asked if not for that Jets game. But now it's on the table for some people. If Jalen Hurts struggles, do you bench him for Gardner Minshew? I'll start with you, Jason.
Oh, what? Oh.
The man had a glass in his mouth. I couldn't throw it to him.
All right, so if Jalen Hurts, I think that you've opened the door for it. So I don't think that it's outside of the realm of possibility.
Right.
I think that, yes, I think that if Jalen Hurts comes out and he's struggling really bad and the team is in jeopardy of losing the football game, that you have to go with Gardner Minshew because it's best for team, not necessarily best for the quarterback at that moment in time, but you have to do what's best for the team. And so I agree with that logic. As of right now, I don't think that it was a possibility before.
Right.
But I think some of the moves of those that are in front office have been to the point where it's on the table.
Yeah. Adam, what do you think?
I would say depending on what the score is, if they're behind by 10 or more, and it's clear that Hurts is a reason why that they're behind, I would consider doing it. But if it's tied, let him get the team out of a tough spot. That's another thing as a young quarterback. You got to let the guy play. And I'm sure he wants to show the coaches he can play through injury. That to me is also a key here. So I think you monitor it. I mean, I can't imagine that Garrett Gilbert's going to start going off against this defense. Stranger things have happened.
Yeah.
But it shouldn't be a situation, even if they're struggling on offense, they get behind by a lot, unless their tackling's really shoddy on our man Antonio Gibson. I just don't see a lot of offense in this game. It would surprise me if they would consider doing that.
Yeah, I agree with you. I also would not do it, even if, as long as it's a close game and as long as he's healthy enough to play, I would try to let him get through the issue. Like, let's say he plays a game similar to how they played against the Giants. He was there at the end. That game could have been won. So I'm not pulling Jalen Hurts unless it's like you're down 20 in the third quarter and he's got 3 picks or something like that.
I agree with you guys. Should they do it? No.
Right. But what does the organization do?
Will the steps leading up to this, will it happen? It's a possibility.
Right. As I often find when we do our shows, whether it's your show with Quentin, our show, what we think and what the organization thinks is not always synonymous.
Yeah.
So sometimes you have to give your analysis. Sometimes you have to give what you think the Eagles will do.
Now,
and sometimes that gets confused. People will come down on us like, thinking it's our feeling on it when it's just what we know about the organization.
And here's the thing, like let's do a comparison. Jalen Reagor, right? Jalen Reagor's been struggling. A lot of people say bench him, but they haven't benched Jalen Reagor. So you don't even know who's behind him. You know JJ outside, Greg Ward. We know that, but it's not even up for question.
Right.
This here, because of the quote-unquote injury and all those things, to me I say quote-unquote injury because the guy said he can play last Wednesday. Now it's up for question, and when you do that, it's only right for the fans to start asking that question and for you to really take some consideration into a thing like that.
Yeah, sure. And again, also there's that idea of, is it more important to get the Jalen Hurts evaluation or is it more important to make the playoffs? And that is a polarizing opinion right now.
You can do both. I don't think they're mutually exclusive.
No, they're not. But
you can do both.
If you feel like a change would help you do that in either a particular game or a particular week, some would advocate
like a relief
for
pitcher?
It, and others would say, no, I want to see him work through it.
Let me extrapolate this a little bit. Let's just say at halftime they're down by 10. He's clearly not playing well. Minshew, okay, you know what? They come back, they win the game. Then as Jason said, you open the can of worms. Do you go back to Hurts, just use Minshew as a relief pitcher? Okay, he got the job done as a good backup quarterback should.
Right, go back to Minshew.
Right. No, would you go back to Hurts as your starter? I would say yes.
You could do that. It's tough.
But let's look at it. We've seen it already. It's Tua and it's Ryan Fitzpatrick. You start doing those things, it starts to mess up the psyche of the younger player. Yeah. You know what the older player already is. Maybe they're evaluating Minshew. I don't know the benefit for anyone long term.
Right. Yeah, I remember thinking that what Washington was doing last year was weird, even though they won 10 and 6 games. And
Miami.
I'm sorry, Miami. Yeah. What Miami did last year was unconventional and I'm not sure beneficial. I know they went 10 and 6, so it was easy to pass it off as really good. But I don't think it necessarily was the best thing for Tua.
It was weird.
Fitzpatrick.
I had not seen anything like that before. He literally used Ryan Fitzpatrick as the relief pitcher.
Yeah, a closer.
But as you said, it doesn't help your 5th pick overall develop. Because remember now, They pulled Tua twice, and in Week 17 they had to win against Buffalo. He was terrible. They got blown out. Fitzpatrick was on the COVID list, so they couldn't put him in. That would have been the third time you pulled him.
Right.
You can't do it because don't you as a player, wouldn't you? I know you didn't play quarterback, but wouldn't you think if you know you could be pulled, it could happen again?
Yeah.
Once they've done it a couple times?
So listen, to me, I don't feel too much sympathy for these guys because every other position is just like that, right? It's like you're not playing well, you get snatched.
Yeah.
But for the quarterback, and you invest so much, so many resources, so much time, so much effort into it. So I understand the logic behind it. But yes, will it mess up someone's mental if they're not mentally tough and strong? It will. Do I think that Jalen Hurts is as fragile as Tua? No, I don't think that either. I think that Jalen Hurts could possibly play better. You never know.
Yeah. Interesting stuff. Definitely will be interesting to see. And then plus part of that element was we didn't really discuss. You may want to pull Jalen if you just feel like he's not healthy enough to be impactful. If you see him struggling out there because he's not running well, that's a big part of his game, Jay. I mean, if he's not running and he's getting killed in the run in pass pro,
that kind of tells you though.
That kind of tells you what?
That tells you,
not progressing as a passer?
Well, what are we doing here, right? Because there's no way that if Aaron Rodgers, and I know they're not the same players, but it's your starting quarterback that's going to give you the best opportunity to win tells you that he can play,
right?
And it's an injury that he can play through, and you say no, we want to evaluate you. You sit down for a week. That doesn't happen in the National Football League. True. It doesn't happen anywhere.
True.
When your best player wants to play, he plays.
Yeah.
And it's up to him. It's not you making a decision for him. It just doesn't happen like that.
I like the question you asked.
Yeah.
What are we doing here? Because that is a question I have asked about the Eagles at several different times throughout their covering this team for I mean, from second round picks to linebacker and safety and to
especially you with safety,
to front office collisions and everything. Yeah, absolutely. Look, okay, so let's get back to wide receivers. If no second wide receiver does emerge tonight, no Robin to the Batman, as Jason referred to, it pretty much becomes another Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert show, which it's kind of been for most of the year. Washington does have a worse pass defense than the Jets statistically, right? And they're also banged up in the secondary. But they've also made a lot of improvements over the last 8 games. In fact, if you look at their stats, over the first 8 games, quarterbacks were completing 67% of their passes against Washington. They had 107.6 passer rating against Washington and 2.5 passing touchdowns per game, 287 passing yards per game against Washington in the first 8 games. All of that ranked either 31st or 32nd. They were dead last in the league. The last 5 games, a lot different. Passer rating against 89.8. Touchdowns against them through the air down to 1.4. From 2.5 to 1.4 is a big difference as far as touchdowns allowed through the air. Quarterbacks still completing a high percent, 68%, but down to 215 yards a game against them. So that's a big difference. Adam, what is so different in what you've heard and seen from their defense over the last 5 games?
It's very similar, Jeff, to what Steve Spagnuolo did with the Chiefs. He went from a lot of man coverage to zone. They're not making as many mental errors. Now, they're really good at covering the tight end. They're a top 7 against tight end. They struggle against slot and outside receivers. But they've been way more disciplined. Because if you look at the numbers, they may have had the NFL's worst defense ever for the first 7 weeks. It was terrible. They're actually almost not competitive. To the point you were wondering, is Ron Rivera going to have to take over for Jack Del Rio? It was that bad?
Right.
But Jack junked it. I'm sure Ron had to get with him and say, hey, listen, we got to improve this. And he did what a lot of coaches don't like doing. They have to swallow their pride and go with something different. And he went with more zone coverage, and they're not making those mistakes. Their defense has improved significantly, despite all the injuries and the COVID issues. That's why tonight I have a hard time seeing a lot of points, unless there's so many turnovers where you're getting the ball at plus territory, major plus territory, like the sudden change at the 10 or 15-yard line a bunch of times. Based on the way both defenses are playing, let's not forget the Eagles' defense has improved.
Yeah.
I just don't see this being a high-scoring
If you're
game.
Jack Del Rio, you coming after Jalen tonight? I mean,
Good
you're
question.
testing his ankle? You got a lot of pass rushers.
They're going to load the box if Jalen's in there. That's just what you're going to do. So are you coming after him? In situations, yes, you will come after him. You're going to be selective in the way that you do it, though. You have to, because if he can run, he can hurt you pretty badly. Now, one of the reasons they are getting better is, yes, they switched from man to zone, and and it's historically, like, the Jack Del Rio defenses have never been, like, great man-to-man defenses, right? And Ron is not a man-to-man defensive coordinator at all.
Right.
Me being down in Carolina with him is just something that he'd have no interest in playing if he doesn't have to.
He played for Buddy, right? Wasn't he a part of the '85 Bears? Ron?
Yeah.
Wasn't he like a backup?
He played there, but I'm just talking about his defense in general.
Sure. No.
You know, it's usually going to be more heavy zone base.
Right.
And he has those players on the outside. Landon Collins is a zone player. Kendall Fuller is a zone player, right? Will Jackson can play man or zone, but he plays a large percentage of a man. I mean, of zone when he was with the Steelers,
with the
maybe
Bengals.
the Bengals.
Yep.
But when you hear the word zone says to me that the tight end should be able to get open.
Mm-hmm. You know what's incredible?
That's, the tight end. And when you don't have any Cameron Curl, I think that Dallas Goedert can go against that seventh against the tight end. Top team against tight end.
The Eagles are playing more man coverage over the last 4 weeks than most of the league.
So the Eagles have actually done the opposite of what Washington
never would have believed
did.
it.
It's amazing how that works out. Well, we'll see what the Washington defense does tonight, because if you're playing zone, a lot of times you're not. I mean, you can blitz out of zone, but you're not always. If you're playing man,
it's still more zone, but a lot more man than they were playing before.
The other thing too, when you're playing that much zone, it gives guys like Quez Watkins, guys like Jalen Reagor, a better opportunity to win, because their struggle is versus man to man.
Sure.
You get to put them in zone, you get a better opportunity, higher chance to win. So you may see one of those guys emerge tonight.
Did you like man or zone when you played, or both? Or anything?
I preferred man to man. I prefer that because I knew that I didn't have to think about anything. I could just beat this guy, and I like the fact of it's kind of demoralizing. The guy keep beating you one-on-one. So that kind of excited me. But zone is pretty easy once you realize what it is. So.
All right. As far as Washington, if it seems like the Eagles are playing a different quarterback every single time they're playing Washington, that's because they have been for the last 3 years. Every time the Eagles have faced Washington, they have faced a different starter from game 1 to game 2, which is hard to believe. Last year, Dwayne Haskins started the season opener. They won that game, if you'll remember. Alex Smith started in week 17. The year before, Case Keenum was actually their week 1 starter. Dwayne Haskins had taken over by week 15. And the year before that, Colt McCoy started against the Eagles in week 13. And then just 4 weeks later, Josh Johnson, who lasted like a quarter before Mark Sanchez came in and replaced.
Still play. He's still in the league.
I know, Josh. It's amazing. So today, obviously, that trend will continue because the Eagles will see Garrett Gilbert for the first time. He has never faced the Eagles. He did play for the Cowboys a little bit last year. He was with the Patriots practice squad earlier this year. But, when he started for the Cowboys last year, guys, they played, his one start came against the Steelers at a time that the Steelers were undefeated. And they lost the game, the Cowboys did, 24-19. But he completed 21 of 38 passes for 243 yards, a touchdown, an interception. He was only sacked twice, and he ran for 28 yards. For a guy who was making his first start in maybe of his career at that point, that's actually not that bad.
No, he was serviceable. This team, Washington's 8th team in 8 years, at 30 years old. And it's just remarkable that he's still hanging in there. And when I watched him last year, I'm like, why is this guy not at least a backup? Right. Obviously, something happens where he doesn't look good in practice. But as you were saying earlier, it's so true. Ben DiNucci was so bad last year, and the Eagles were so bad against Dallas offensively. Pretty much anyone could have beaten them last year.
They turned the ball over 4 times in that game. I think Carson threw 2 picks and fumbled twice. We all remember the play where Carson's just drifting out of the pocket, going to the right, at the sideline, where you could just throw the ball away, and he takes the hit and he fumbles. I mean, I can't believe the Eagles won that game, but you have to wonder if Garrett Gilbert, someone of experience and not Ben DiNucci, right? Or if even Andy Dalton had been healthy, would the Eagles have even won that game? Probably not. I mean, you don't win very many games where you turn the ball over 4 times. But
it's rare. It's almost impossible.
Yeah. What do you think to expect tonight from Garrett Gilbert? And first of all, if you're Jonathan Gannon, are you soft or are you going after him?
That's the question.
You gotta go after him.
Wouldn't you?
There's no other way. Yeah, there's no other way.
Yeah, but we
have an unproven guy.
The discussion is sometimes what we think and what
different.
we expect. Do you really think he's going to do it?
doesn't do that. He was very passive.
Hold on. Let's think about this.
Yeah. Against the Jets, he sure was passive.
He was, yeah.
And Zach Wilson.
But he lit up someone though.
He brought it against Teddy a little bit.
Against Teddy.
Brought it against Trevor Siemian a little bit.
Yeah. He also brought it versus Goff too, didn't he?
He did bring it against Goff a little
Yeah.
bit. It's hard to find why he would do that against those guys, but not against Zach Wilson, unless he just felt like, we got this in the bag, and I don't want to show anybody else anything.
Not.
I mean, they had all these games coming up against the NFC East teams.
And plus,
you don't want to show it. They've seen the whole gamut.
I'm just trying to understand why you wouldn't come after Zach Wilson.
No, but okay. So let's look at their pass targets. Terry McLaurin was cleared out of the concussion protocol. He'll start tonight.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Cam Sims came off of the COVID list. He's a big guy,
good.
6'5".
Yeah.
Not fast, but he's got a big frame. Logan Thomas is out for the season with the ACL injury. You got Ricky Seals-Jones is a pretty good athlete for the position.
Yeah.
But you're not super worried. I know McLaurin's had some good games against the Eagles. But is there anyone other than McLaurin you're really worried about?
Not really. I mean, Antonio Gibson, but again, in the passing game,
yeah.
not really, right? I mean,
So why would you come after him?
Yeah, I think you should
Why would
definitely
you
come after him.
Wouldn't you?
I would come after him. I would test him. So you mentioned, Adam, Terry McLaurin.
Yeah.
He had a concussion against the Cowboys. He came back. He was cleared, so he's going to play. He is someone, the former Ohio State receiver, who's had very good success against the Eagles in the past. He already has 3 receiving touchdowns against the Eagles in 4 games, including a 75-yarder and a 69-yarder, which are the 2 longest of his career. So he's kind of eaten up the Eagles pretty well here. 4 games, 356 yards, 3 touchdowns, and he averages 17 yards a catch against them. So this is a game where if you are going to come after the quarterback, then you've got to leave Slay in one-on-one, which I think that they're comfortable with.
And that's exactly why Slay's been so good. He's like, bring it, let's go. I'll go, man.
Right.
I know he had trouble some games last year, particularly against Metcalf and a couple other receivers. This year has been lights out. I don't know if there's been a better corner. By the way, Trayvon Diggs has a lot of picks. Slay's been way better than he has.
Yeah.
Way better.
Right.
You know, don't measure a guy by how many picks he has. That's not the best.
That's usually how it goes in the Pro Bowl.
But those are individual plays.
Right.
It's game to game. Slay's been way better. Now, McLaurin's slippery. He's fast. He's tough. He's not the strongest guy in the world, but he can get off press coverage. He's a good football player. Mm-hmm. And I like the way they use him. They move him around. But you know it's going to go to him. And he can run. Like, he can do the short stuff. He can do the long stuff. And it's funny, though, how many coaches I'll talk to and say, geez, why didn't we draft him? Why didn't we draft him? If you look at his numbers, he had no more than 39 receptions in any season at Ohio State. The guy they wanted, and the Colts got him, was Paris Campbell. I know the Eagles were very high on that draft.
Yep.
He was on their draft board. He was one of their 3 picks they were looking at. And it's just amazing how things work out. And McLaurin's been way better than anyone had thought.
That's how the story goes. Some wanted Paris Campbell. The Eagles took J.J. Arcega-Whiteside instead, and they didn't get DK Metcalf, and then, of course, Terry McLaurin. You've probably seen a decent amount of McLaurin both at Ohio State and with Washington. What do you?
Ohio State,
Yeah, I had to put it. Listen, I gave you. That's a good thing, right? Michigan beat Ohio State. That's where you come in and say. What's that? You got inactives?
Inactives, yeah. And this shows you Jalen Hurts is ready to go. Reed Sinnett is inactive.
Okay.
So that they just gave away the answers to the test, which we knew anyway. Kerry Vincent, Tay Gowan, and Marlon Tui-Pelotu, who he's not really a factor this year.
No, he has not been a factor yet.
Yeah, and there are only 4 inactives tonight for the Eagles.
Let's go back to McLaurin.
Yeah.
You like him?
I do. I like him a lot. He's a competitor. He's definitely fast and can move. He wants to get better. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing that you see from him, because he was mainly in the slot at Ohio State.
Right.
And
another reason he probably fell.
And they use him as a gadget player and different things. But you never can measure a kid's heart. This kid has a bunch of it. He wants the ball. He fights for it. What else can you want? I love him as a player. You know, you wish you would have drafted him, but
does that
you can never know how big a guy's heart is. It's very, very hard to see, especially with some. You can see it sometime on tape, and those guys usually with big hearts and can play usually pick one.
Sure.
But with a guy like him, where you don't know he's hitting in the slot, you can overlook him pretty fast.
The Eagles, that we've been talking about, have been playing more man defense. It's not their base; they still play a lot of zone, but they will play man at times. So, but I don't think they necessarily trail all the time when in man. If they do, you would like to see Slay matched up against McLaurin whenever they're in man, no?
Yeah, McLaurin and Steven Nelson is a mismatch for McLaurin.
Yeah.
Just because of how slippery he is and how fast he is.
Right.
He's not the player that you want matched up with Steven Nelson. So they're going to have to consider in critical situations to try to match.
Would you get physical with him? Would you press at all?
There's a bunch of guys that have been successful pressing him.
Okay.
There are some guys that have been successful pressing him. So you can press him. You have to be the physical type and a guy that can stay in front of him. But like I said, he's a workhorse, so you may get him a few times, but there's one time he's going to get behind you.
Right.
So it's one of those guys where you feel like, hey, I got him handled, and before you know it's a 60-yard touchdown.
Interesting thing on McLaurin is for the last 3 weeks, he just really hasn't been a big factor in their offense. Now, we mentioned they're running the ball a lot. So just like the Eagles, who are running the ball a lot, there have been a few weeks lately that Devontae Smith just hasn't been a really big part of the game plan. It doesn't mean Devontae Smith's not a good receiver, but just for perspective, against Seattle, McLaurin 4 catches, 51 yards. Against the Raiders, 3 catches for 22 yards. And then he had no catches on 3 targets against the Cowboys before he left with a concussion. So I don't know if that's just basically not in rhythm right now with Heineke, and what to expect out of Gilbert, who's never thrown. Well, go into that. When you're catching passes from a quarterback who you just met 3 days ago, how difficult is that chemistry?
There is none.
There's none there.
That's the thing. There's no chemistry there. So you're just hoping that whoever taught him previously has some. The only thing that you kind of need on certain routes. So it's going to limit what you can run and how you're going to get guys the ball. Like the intricate stuff where there's guys, coming out a bunch and getting open that way, you won't see that. You'll see a bunch of stop routes, slant routes, in cuts, like basically one-on-one routes from the outside.
Sure.
Very basic concepts. You're not going to see a bunch of, intricate passing offense from the Redskins. You're just not.
Yeah.
So, and if that's the case, a guy like Slay could get a touchdown. because he kind of you can't just run basic stuff in front of him.
Right. I mean, you saw what he did to Simeon before the half, right?
Yeah.
Where he kind of baited him and sat back there.
And those are the types of things that can occur.
Right.
When you're running a curl 3 times, or you're running, a slant, you can run it as much as you want, but you start running daggers and stuff like that. It gives the hand to Darius Slay.
Antonio Gibson's going to get the ball like 40 times tonight, isn't he?
Well, I was going to ask you, what's the over-under tonight for total runs for both teams combined?
Oh, total runs for
75?
both.
75?
If you put it at 70, I'll take the over.
Yeah, at least 70.
Absolutely. You take the over.
It's just so funny because we start the season, Hurts is averaging 35 pass attempts per game through 7 weeks. And then when they ran the ball so much against the Raiders, I'm like, I didn't know what to think of it because they were behind and they ran it. Okay, fine. But to think that they run the ball over 40 times a game or around 40 times a game is just unheard of.
Yeah.
And you see, as you were saying earlier, they're all active tonight, by the way, as we should mention. Actually, Gainwell's active.
Oh, now that you mentioned it, he is active. So 4 running backs are active for the Eagles tonight.
Yeah.
That one just slipped right past
Well,
us.
no, but the reason why is because, remember, 2 of them have injuries that haven't totally healed.
That's true.
So that gives them, if one of them gets hurt, you got to have 3 guys active.
Also, you may see one of them on return. After Jalen Reagor struggled in the last game on return, you may see Boston Scott or Gainwell back there.
It's Greg. Well, it'll be Gainwell or Boston Scott on kick returns, and Greg Ward on punt returns.
Yeah.
Well, Greg Ward is Mr. Fair Catch. You just know that's his nickname. He does. He just won't return it, but he won't drop it though.
Right.
That's the key. If you want him to not lose yards, I guarantee he'll do that.
Did you ever return a punt for the Eagles ever in a game?
No, I got fired in college. It was between me and Steve Breston, and he clearly won that.
He's explosive.
Yeah, he was explosive, yeah.
What did Steve run in the 40?
I don't know. In college, he's probably started at 4.4, and then by the time he was done, he was 4.5 after they put extra 15 pounds on him.
For Washington, Tim Settle's inactive.
Oh,
they activate him. He's inactive, yeah.
Wow, interesting. That's weird. Okay. Who What was the trifecta out there in Arizona? It was Larry Fitzgerald, it
Anquan
was
Boldin,
Steve Breston, and Anquan Boldin.
Yeah, they went for 1,000 one year. Yeah,
and then everybody kind of went,
1,000.
you know, and then Steve, we just didn't hear from him again much.
Well, Steve went to Kansas City and got hurt. And that's when you don't hear from guys usually because they got hurt.
Yeah, that's usually
that's
the
what
case.
happens in the National Football League.
Absolutely. That Ohio State offense has hid pretty good wide receivers now that I think about it, because Mike Thomas was also not a first or a second round pick.
One explosive, but could get open like crazy.
Could get open.
Yeah.
Yep, could get open. Yeah. So.
Of course, that'll change this year with Garrett Wilson and Olave.
Chris Olave, yeah. Wilson's apparently, by the way, the better player is the early word.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's probably going to go higher.
All right. Check out our friends at PHLSportsNation.com. They are enhancing the fans' experience with their coverage of Philadelphia sports teams. For the fan, by the fan is their motto. That's PHLSportsNation.com. And you can find them on Twitter at PHLSportsNation. We mentioned we were going to read out some of the scores. They're coming in already. Michael H. has the Eagles winning 31-27.
31-27.
Yeah,
wow.
high. That would be, it's well over the over.
Really?
You never know.
Okay.
Tony Fuller has the Birds squeaking out a 24-21 win. Abdul Kirby has the Eagles winning 34-6. And Carl Stevenson says 31-14 Eagles. I noticed a trend here. Everybody's picking the Eagles.
I'd love to know why people think the Eagles are going to score a lot. Now, is it off turnovers, guys? I'd like to know.
You get a couple.
Well, they got a few last week.
Well, think about it. The Broncos and the Saints game, they both got over 30, but they had defensive touchdowns in both those games. Right?
Parsons just crushed them. He abused their offensive line.
Oh, Micah?
Oh, yeah, he crushed them. So I'm very curious to see because we were talking about, will they blitz or not? Now, could four-man pressure win? Let's see.
I don't know if we got an athlete like that, though.
No, nobody does. No, that's true.
Their pride over here at Penn State.
As I like to joke, there could have been 32 Micah Parsons available in last year's draft, and the Eagles would have just completely traded out of the first round altogether. They would have gone down, and then out, and acquired a lot of future assets. There was just no way they would have taken Micah Parsons. But that's a good teaser, fellas, because we are going to talk about the Eagles' defense, because after a disastrous first 2 months of the season, the Eagles have been kind of quietly crept up into top 10 in some significant defensive categories, top 5 in some others, including third down efficiency, which is a very important stat.
Which they weren't good in the beginning.
And they were horrible at, and defensive touchdowns scored. So if you take a look, they're allowing, since week 8, they're allowing 17.7 points per game. That's 6th in the league. 308 yards per game, 7th in the league. Rushing yards allowed, big problem first 6 weeks, down to 81.8. That's third best in football since the start of week 8. I mentioned third down efficiency is at 33%. That's top 5. Scoring efficiency, top 10 at 31.7. Forced fumbles. Remember how much we talked about the lack of takeaways for this team in the first 6 weeks? Well, they have 7 since the start of week 8, and that is 6th in the NFL in that time frame. Adam, what do you make of that? Some of this is staggering as far as what we saw.
You and I were talking about this on Inside the Birds, that in terms of Gannon, he's starting to understand the players better. This is one thing I've learned about this season with all the coaching changes, the coordinator changes. You can't just snap your fingers and think they're going to get what you're asking them to do.
Right.
As much as we all, on your show, on our show, we were like, throw our hands up, like, what is Gannon doing? Well, it's because he's trying to figure it out. So really the thing that I'm trying to be more patient with is when you have a new coaching staff and they're new to the players, it's not going to be quite what you saw in training camp. No matter how much we saw the linebackers standing up and rushing, they're now being more used as run stoppers. Another thing is the run defense has improved.
Yes.
It's another part of it. So they're just way more disciplined. I think Gannon's trusting more. I just wish he'd be more aggressive. That's the one thing about Gannon I have not seen enough of. I understand he's not a big blitz guy, but I'd like to see more edge pressure. Because Washington quarterbacks got hit against Dallas 9 times. They got sacked 5 times. They were moving Parsons around. They also got inside pressure. The Eagles could eat tonight. Their D-line versus the Washington O-line. I think they could have some feasting tonight.
I think that one of the biggest reasons for their success is getting some guys back and finding out the lineups that work for them, right? So getting Rodney back was a big thing. Inserting TJ Edwards has been a huge benefit.
Yeah.
And then philosophy change. A little bit passive, all zone, majority zone, 2 shell, Now you're starting to get into that cover 3 on first down, stopping the run, getting into longer down distances, and then on third down, they're challenging people now. Before it was let the guy catch the ball at the sticks and keep moving down the field. Now they're getting in people's faces. The defensive backfield has found some camaraderie, and they're playing hard-nosed football as far as challenging people. We're seeing more contested passes in these last 5-6 weeks than we did all of the beginning of the year. You know, there was guys running free the entire beginning of the season. So those are some catalysts, and I think that you know, Gannon has adjusted well, like Adam has said. To me, it was too long. The reason I say it, and because the NFL coach, you expect the NFL coach to have answers for things quicker, not necessarily I'm learning through it.
Right.
I assume that players, because they're, you know, being rookies and all those things, that they learn. NFL coaching, you should have the information ready and available for you.
Yeah, it also felt like he had to be talked into it from the head coach after that Raiders game. Like,
he actually didn't deny it either, Sirianni, if you remember. He was asked about that. But the other thing is the techniques. When you're playing on the 4-eye, you know, you're not being asked to rush the passer like you would normally be if you're outside. And that's adjustment for Josh Sweat and Fletcher Cox and the guys are being asked to use different techniques where under Jim Schwartz, okay, the 9s are rushing upfield. You play the run up to the quarterback. You're really not playing the run. You're really rushing the passer. It's a different mindset. The hand usage is different. They struggled early with, and I still think next year, if Fletcher Cox is on the team, he's going to be given a little bit more leeway. But this takes time. I think that's probably what we've all learned over the 3.5 months. It takes time.
It does feel like the D-line is still kind of inconsistent. Like, there are some games, I felt like the Denver game, they really came. And then there are some times in the Giants game where you're expecting more, and you're wondering less. Where was that, right? I mean, and it really shouldn't be that way. You've got Fletcher, you got Javon Hargrave, Sweat's in his year 4 with the contract, and Barnett year 5. So, like, these guys should sort of know when to bring it every game and when they're going to be needed.
Never know how bad you miss a player. Brandon Graham would be a real good addition for this team, but you know, out for the year.
Brandon Graham from
Mish.
A lot of Big Ten on the field tonight, by the way. McLaurin, right? Miles Sanders. You mentioned T.J. Edwards, a Wisconsin guy. That's where it started. I always feel like – no, not the Big Ten. But I feel like a big part of their turnaround was getting T.J. Edwards. Maybe it was more getting Eric Wilson out than T.J. in. But T.J.'s – I don't want to take anything away. T.J. really is a good downhill, instinctive linebacker who just knows where to be at the right time. And you very rarely see him miss a tackle or get run over.
No, that's not going to happen. Like, when he gets beat, it's going to be because the guy was a better athlete, and that's pretty much it, right? So that's the type of player that he is. Is that talent with hard work is going to beat him. You can't just have one or the other and beat him. He's that type of player, and it's good to see.
Is there anybody from when you played that you can say this guy, Antonio Gibson, a 220-pound running back who played wide receiver in college, reminds me of? Is there anyone that fits that mold? Because he's kind of a unique guy.
No. He's definitely unique.
Yeah, you're seeing that.
Yeah.
What he and Cordarrelle Patterson are doing this year are just kind of like, whoa.
I mean, that is crazy.
Cordarrelle Patterson has always been used wrong.
Right.
He's always been used wrong.
Right.
For some reason, when he was a rookie and they saw how explosive he was, let's make him a gadget player. Let's make him a punt returner, kick returner.
Right.
And he was good at it, and he had value there, so everybody just mimicked. Like I said, people turn off their brains more than you think. You know, because there was a history of him doing that, so everybody put him in this category. And he's not in that category. He's been a great athlete since he was at Tennessee. Right. A great athlete, going to get the football, out jumping people, running routes, a bunch of things. He's been able to do more, maybe because of some things that we don't know about. Was he hindered? But this year's kind of showing a lot of people that there's a lot of NFL smart guys that were wrong.
They're wrong. I mean, no one's got it right with Cordarrelle Patterson until now. And it took Arthur Smith, a brand new head coach of Atlanta, to figure it out. But remember, Gibson was a slot receiver when he got to Silverfield. Said he was 235 pounds. It's about
230. Wow.
I know that they had to try something else.
Yeah.
It's too big. How do you 235 as a slot receiver?
Yeah, I've never seen that.
No.
The closest I've seen is like Golden Tate, because Golden Tate went to Notre Dame as a running back.
Right.
And ended up going the other way. But he always had running back ability, but it's opposite. But yeah, I don't.
All right, last thing on the Eagles defense. Marcus Epps, we've all talked about him on our shows separately, has played well. Last time he played his career high most snaps against the Jets, I think it was 53% of the defense, had an interception in the second half. He was in the right place at the right time, but still, he caught the ball, and that was good. Should he be playing more, and should he be starting over either over Rodney McLeod or Anthony Harris?
Well,
Not Rodney.
Over Rodney?
No, not
Rodney.
No.
Okay.
Oh, on the other side?
Should he be starting over Anthony?
That's definitely an argument.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say it's a tough deal because Harris is here because of the defense. Because this is what Jonathan Gannon wanted. He got his guy. He's only on a one-year deal. Marcus Epps has shown he's got a future with this football team. I think we would all agree with that.
Sure.
The question is, they don't do big nickel really. They don't use, which means three safeties like Washington was, but they can't now because of one of the guys being out. Epps has got to play more. To answer your question, does he need to start? That's a question, but he should be playing a lot more than he had earlier in the season. He's earned it. Next year, to me, he's got to be a starter, I think.
Well, I'll get to that in a second.
Yeah.
Why Epps over Anthony?
Well, just from me watching tape, Anthony Harris has cost this team, to me, I want to say at least one football game that I know of right away. Like just being in the wrong position.
Remember which game?
The Chargers.
Okay, Chargers. Yeah.
The Chargers. Him in those plays at the end of the game, where he was the person that was supposed to be there.
Right.
Going to the other side of the field.
Sure, the tight ends.
The tight ends,
Right.
yes. And at the late in the ball game.
Yep.
And I'm not saying he's the only person.
No, but I get your point.
But a veteran doesn't make that mistake. He's not going to leave his side of the football field when he's playing contained force area.
Right.
Now, with that being said, he's a guy on the field.
Right.
He doesn't flash.
Right.
There's nothing special about it. Me and Q have talked about this over and over again. There's nothing that you see and says Anthony Harris, okay, that was special.
Right.
He doesn't get to an outside go ball. You never see him breaking up one. You don't see him around the football much. You don't see him breaking up passes much. Very, very rarely do you see something great happening. Now, when Epps is in the game, you notice that Epps is in the game.
Certainly flashes.
Right,
Absolutely.
he flashes at times. And which game it was? I believe it was the Raiders game when we had a hard time covering the backup tight end. What was his name?
Foster Moreau.
Foster Moreau.
Yeah. You know,
He did well last
and Epps got inserted in that game and broke up a few passes and things of that nature. So, and had a pick last. You gotta play him more. You just have to. A younger player, showing he's flashing. Veteran player, stagnant.
All right.
Right is right. Wrong is wrong.
Christmas is Saturday. Doesn't
It
matter
is.
what holiday you celebrate. You got a wish list for something. On mine, hear me out here, Howie, if you're listening. There's this kid named Justin Hamilton. He's pretty good, and I hate Notre Dame. You got 3 first-round picks. I know you don't usually do it.
Try it.
Everybody will love you. Everybody will love you if you take
It
Justin
would be
Hamilton.
shocking.
But even if you don't,
It'd be the right pick, but it'd be shocking.
you may have that lower third-round pick from the Colts. There's a kid from Penn State named Jaquan Brisker. People will love you. You can take a safety in the first round. It's okay.
No.
I'm just saying. That's all, fellas. That's how I'm going to end it. It's okay to take a safety in the first
okay
round.
to take
They've
one.
become pretty important players in the modern day.
You're passionate. I like that.
I am passionate about the Eagles ignoring safety position for quite a while. But I am not, however, convinced that my words are going to do anything to make them
When
think
is the last
anything
safety
different.
they've had
We've been through this. The last what?
that's actually made it and been a starter for several years?
Michael Lewis. That was the last one that they drafted.
And-
they've been great free agency.
And
but they
you know,
drafted.
he got the big he
Yeah.
was the one who turned down Joe Banner and
He
the Eagles
did.
front office for an extension.
Right.
It's for your time, I think. Yeah, he wasn't there then.
Well, it was
Number
right
32,
around my
right?
time.
Was he there for you?
Yeah, I played with
32?
Mike.
Yeah, his last
okay.
year was, I think, your rookie year, right?
Yep.
Then he went to the Niners.
Well,
He cashed in.
he cashed in. He did not play great for the Niners, though. I got to say, he wasn't there for very
He didn't
long.
have much. He didn't have a big
The
career.
game was
after that.
changing, and it just caught him right at the wrong time when it went
Both
to
of
a
us
passing
had
league.
the same problems. The game's getting too fast for us.
Yeah, definitely. All right, fellas, let's wrap this up. We're going to get to our player of the game segment. Of course, if you want to get an advantage over your sports book, you got to download BetQL. It's the only app you'll need to make smart bets. Their best bet computer model scans over 350,000 unique bets a year to give you a best bet recommendation for every game across all major sports and the reason why you should place the bet. Their model covers everything from spreads to over-unders, player prop bets, and if you don't want to use the model, if you're a researcher, BetQL's got the necessary tools for your betting research needs, from sharp data, line movement, team summaries, lineup and injury, breaking news, even a leaderboards to track your success. So head to the App Store or Google Play Store now to download BetQL. You can also head to try.betql.co/ITB to get started. You just use the discount code ITB at checkout for 25% off their subscription offerings. And if you live in one of their eligible states, you can get their sportsbook offers, free offers, upon signing up at one of the many sportsbooks listed. So don't miss out on the chance to beat your sportsbook this football season using BetQL. All right, players of the game. Jason, who's the player of the game today? You already hinted at it.
I think that Dallas is going to have a good game. No Cameron Curl, zone defense. Usually the tight end plays well in that situation. And I'm saying that because the lack of production from our outside receivers as well. So I think that it's only one or two options right now, unless Quez emerges today. But I think it'll be Dallas Goedert somehow.
So he's Robin. He's Robin for this game.
Yep. He's either Batman or Robin.
Batman or Robin.
Each game.
There you go. Adam?
I'm going to go with Javon Hargrave. Remember now, third-string center. There's a fifth-rounder, Ismail. You've got Eric Flowers, who has improved from going from tackle to guard. He's okay. The right guard spot is up in the air. We'll see what they do for Sheriff. So to me, again, you've got an advantage here. This is a game where he and Fletcher Cox, I could pick Cox for this game, but I'm going to go with Hargrave. I think Hargrave's going to knock it through the park here and have a great game, one of his best of the season.
All right, so I made a monumental screw up. All right. So what I did was, and it's okay. First part of it is okay, because I said I was going to do it on the podcast.
Okay.
I changed my pick. I said I reserve the right to change my pick.
Do you remember when I changed my pick?
Yeah, but I did. See, here's the difference. I told them well in advance, so the production crew is ready. But the problem, Jason, is I forgot to change my player of the game pick because I switched from Washington to Eagles, right? So now I think the Eagles are going to win, but my player of the game is still a Washington player. So instead, I'll just call it a player to watch. And this guy, the same as Adam's line of thinking, I took Jonathan Allen, thinking that, if Heineke starts, Washington was going to win the game, and John Allen was going to be a big factor because we know the Eagles are really beat up at the offensive guard position. And by the way, Jason Kelsey's been kind of playing through some ankle thing going on too, so he's had to come out of each of the last two games.
We're told the knee, which he had previously hurt like 4 games ago,
right?
It was just wear and tear, nothing structural, so he's fine with that. But the ankle, as you said, look.
All right.
He's 34.
Yeah.
That's 34 years old.
Remember, depth on this whole interior line, we talked about it. It's perilous tonight. So my player to watch for Washington would be Jonathan Allen. All right, so that'll be that. And we will now get into our predictions part of this. Of course, Sundays are made for football at Rivers Casino, Philadelphia. Every Sunday from now till the end of the season, you can enjoy $7 food specials in Jack's Bar and Grill. That's right here. Half-price gourmet burgers at Hugo's Chop House, drink specials and more. And not only that, when the Birds score, you score when you're actively planning with your Rush Rewards card in their Bird's Nest pit in front of the sportsbook. So remember, you can be a winner at Rivers Casino, Philadelphia, where Philly loves a winner. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Now, the line on this game has moved so much that it was like, because obviously with all the
9.5 at one point?
At one point it was 9.5. Then I think it got as high as 14.
What?
Right? At one point it was as low, I think, as 5 or 6 when it first came out.
Oh my God.
Currently, the line on this game is the Eagles are 9.5-point favorites again, Adam.
Wow.
The over-under, though, number has come down.
It should drop.
But I guess because no Taylor Heineke and no Kyle Allen, it's 40.5. It's a pretty low-scoring number for an NFL game.
Got Mr. Low score anyway, and I still think it will be.
All right. So that's really interesting. Now, as far as BetQL, we always tell you about BetQL. They are predicting a fairly big night for Jalen Hurts. They see him as having their model. Remember, this is not just like they grabbed this out of a hat. Their model gives them 250 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Passing,
Along with an extra 35 rushing on the game. So if you're a big Metcalf
When
follower,
was the last time he went for 250?
yeah, that would be a
I
one
know.
heck of
I don't
a game.
understand. I don't know where they're coming up with that.
250. Boy, they're really looking at that Washington
But
secondary.
it's based on that. Well, that's it. Well, we don't know that.
Right, this is based on what teams have done against
Analytically,
Washington.
right? I
Analytics,
understand. And
yeah.
then you take Cam Curl out, you're going to see Bobby McCain. You might remember him from the Dolphins. They play big nickel. They used to.
Right.
McCain was a former corner who switched to safety, who's been playing a lot. So there's an advantage there.
They also predicted Eagles winning 26-18. And from a fantasy standpoint, not that too many people have guys left, but I mean, Antonio
Goddard.
Gibson, they have as having 35 rush yards, 20 receiving yards, 35 receiving yards for Adam Humphries, McLaurin 60 yards. So not a whole lot of
I
offensive
see it low
production
scoring. I'd be very surprised. And again, unless there are a lot of turnovers, you get it very high plus territory.
there. Yep.
I don't see it.
All right, let's do what we do. Jason, who's winning?
I got the Birds tonight. I believe it's 24-16, I think.
You do have 24-16.
Yeah, Birds.
Eagles win 24-16. All right, so still a little tight, a little close.
Yeah. I think
All
they
right,
cover.
8-point win. That means they don't cover.
They don't
But that's
cover.
all right. Adam, what you got?
You know, I'm Mr. Low Score. I've got it. Eagles 16, WFT 13.
Nice. All right, so
That's
that's
it,
a
Redskins.
major under on the over-under there, 16-13. And, of course, you don't think they cover either. I have the Eagles winning 21-13 upon my further review of Taylor Heinicke
Under?
not starting.
Okay, you got it under.
So I do not have them covering, and I have under the score as well. Greg Cosell, by the way, chimed in. He has the Eagles winning 24-16.
Okay.
Quentin Mikell has the Eagles winning 27-24. So it is an ITB pregame live sweep for the Eagles, and God knows what that probably means for the Eagles tonight on the field. Remember, before you put your money down on this game, go to the Bet Rivers app or just come down here at Rivers Casino in Philadelphia, get all the statistical trends and data.
A lot of people
at
over there.
BetQL. Yeah, big thanks to Rivers Casino and Sportsbook, Sky Motor Cars, BetQL, the teams at Rebel Hill and Public Square. Make sure you're subscribed to the Inside the Birds podcast. We will drop to Monday morning, 6 a.m., Q&A, Thursday, 6 a.m. Go to InsideTheBirds.com for coverage after the game. Everybody, we'll be back Sunday. Not too far for Eagles-Giants in just a few days. Have a great game, everyone. Good night.